What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Renegade Animation on the Renegade Pop Culture Podcast Network. My name is Mike. I will be your host for this evening. Joining me, as always, is my co-captain, Cameron.
Howdy, howdy.
And the rest of the Anime Book Club. We've got Haley.
Hello, hello.
And we've got Teresa.
Hi.
And this is part 2 of the summer anime recap, preview, whatever this is. This was draining. We're talking about the action adventure and the comedy romance series. And don't worry, we didn't hate everything, but to get to the good, we first have to trudge through the bad. Starting with Cameron, would you like to start us off?
Gladly. We're going to talk about Cheat Pharmacist's Slow Life, making a drugstore in another world. It's based on the novels, light novels, and manga by Kanoji, and it's this adaptation is directed by Masafumi Sato, written by Hiroko Kanasugi, and produced by EMT Squared, which, if you know that studio's outputs, it's not the best, but we'll get to that when we get to that. So, Reiji Kiryu, formerly a corporate slave, wakes up one day in another world. After discovering that he has gained superhuman pharmaceutical knowledge, he decides to open up a drugstore alongside the canine Noera and the ghostly Mina. There, he tends to the needs of all who visit the shop with potions and the like, aka the mediocre version of the Saint's magic is omnipotent. Yeah, sorry to jump ahead. This one was not good. It's really just light, fluffy nonsense. But before we get into that, Mike, what did you think?
Yeah, no, I agree with your assessment of I liked this premise better when it was
the Saint's magic.
Yeah, the Saint's magic power is omnipotent. That just had more charm. It was very, very easygoing. And to be completely honest, it's the main protagonist that I liked 1,000 times better than this. Although he tries to be like the kind of good person making potions for these people. But I don't know, there's just something about it I couldn't really get into.
Yeah. Well, first off, the show is not really interested in telling us exactly how our character gets into this world. The My Anime List synopsis says so, but so far the show has not directly told us what happened. They just drop us in. He has a little werewolf girl as a mascot and a homie ghost girl, and it's really just cute antics with very little puzzle solving of just like, what can I make for these people that will help out in these specific situations? And it's really repetitive. It doesn't have the appeal of something like Dragon Goes House Hunting or Sleepy Princess in the Demon Castle, where the antics, they're all just little episodic antics in one episode, but they're not really all that funny, or they're very predictable.
You know what the cadence kind of feels like? It kind of feels like one of those, it feels like one of those educational shows on like Nick Jr., but it's also not exactly kid friendly. Like, I think the worst example of this is episode 2, and I remember ranting about it in the group chat. They spend a good 5 minutes on dish soap, the magic of dish soap.
Yes.
I mean, First of all, how does a pharmacist know about how to make dish soap? That doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but whatever. They needed something to make. They couldn't just make a bunch of medical drugs.
That's the other thing. Like, the show's about a pharmacist, but he seems more like a jack of all trades. Like, do you not know the meaning of the word pharmacist?
Yeah. Haley, what did you think?
Yeah, this is a kind of a big nothing of a show. I found it kind of creepy, honestly. I do not like the wolf girl. She was obnoxious, and I could tell she was designed to sell statues to creepy men, and she looks 5. So that was kind of my overwhelming, this is trying to be wholesome, but there's things about it that really keep it from being kind of just like this wholesome whatever show. And I think I've said this before, where it's like when something fails at its intended purpose, then I have to analyze it more deeply. And I think looking into the show deeply is just asking for trouble, because there's nothing really foundational set down about it. We don't know where this dude came from. Why can a ghost cook and wash dishes, thus necessitating the need for dish soap? There's a couple of things about it I did like. I really liked the nobleman and his very exhausted girlfriend. Like, that was, the plot line itself was chaotic and not super great, but the characters show up again and they're pretty interesting. I think he says the line, "I've got tons of money if nothing else," and that gave me some real Neo Yokio vibes, which this show needed more of. Like, it needed more of something. Like, whether it went full Neo Yokio or the pharmacist is like, "Well, you can't have my dish soap then, you don't deserve it," or just some personality, something that wasn't designed to calculate to a very niche audience, like a woman above the age of 20. There's really not a whole lot to talk about it. If it's like you watch an episode and it's either your vibe or it's boring the shit out of you while also kind of creeping you out. So it's like,
Yeah.
There was someone named Lards, Lards, and that cracked me up. I also want to point out Lady Flam has like the best voice actress of anyone in this season. She sounds extremely J-drama, and like, I really liked her. But these things are, I've said things and I'm like, I like this. Those are really the only things I liked. It's just not a great it is what it is, you know?
Yeah, it's very forgettable. It doesn't go far enough with its premise to really stand out. And I'm not saying EMT Squared has a specific type of show they like to make, but they tend to keep making ones with like a guy and a gaggle of young girls harem elements. And luckily it's not directed by the person who did like Assassin's Pride or Master of Ragnarok, which are wildly worse and creepier because they're all little sister harems. So yeah, there's that. But the show, there's really nothing distinct about the show. And yeah, that the couple with the overly exhausted girlfriend, the way they handle her mental exhaustion at first was not great, or just how they treated her. And though I will say, I think my favorite were the bandits.
The bandits were fun.
The bandits were very Pokemon. I enjoyed them.
Yeah, and I liked how supportive they were, and they weren't mean to one another or anything like that. They just wanted everything to be okay. And I will say I did like the pepper spray stuff, because I will one time, like when my sister was buying a stick of pepper spray, and she, like, we all wanted to, like, we didn't test it on ourselves, but she like sprayed it in the air while everyone else was like 5 feet away, and we were like, oh well, that was a bit like, you could feel the effect of it. It's like, wow, yeah. Yeah, the wolf girl is like a little creepy. It's like, when I was trying to find photos for the editorial that I was posting, I was trying to find one with her in it, and then it was just like, you know, if you just cut everything below the neck, she looks fine. It, like, very cute eyes and designs and such, but then you look at the whole design and it's like, creepy, uncomfortable, let's not do this.
That sort of creepiness kind of rubs up against the educational cadence of the writing.
Teresa, what did you think?
Yeah, it's something about the petting her, and she doesn't like to be petted, and they try to give like a replacement tail and it doesn't work. That's when I was like, it's a little weird going on here. But I mean, it's very like forgettable, and it's mostly fluff, especially with the repetitive, like when he's making the medicine or whatever it is scene where they're just kind of like dancing. I was like, oh, they're literally going to use the same scene every time. Okay, they just corners. All right. But yeah, I love the Red Cat Brigade. I thought they were funny, and that like dynamic between the captain. I like that it was a lady captain, and then protecting the town. I thought it was a bit weird that we don't really see any conflict seriously until the very last minute of episode 3. So I'm like half curious, but not that strongly, to watch more. But I did kind of like that he has his like ghost, but she's not very ghostly. Like if they didn't say that at the beginning, I would not think she was a ghost for Amina. And I do like wolf girls, but yeah, it gets that I don't like that they're petting her all the time. And that's like his defense system. So that kind of weirded me out.
Yeah, no, I think I'd rather be watched. Like, if I had to pick a show from this year that had this kind of same laid back, cute vibe, I think I'd rather watch that. I maxed out my level by killing slimes for 300 years or whatever that show was
Same.
called. Because at least that one had like a little more conflict of interest going on, and it was a lot funnier, and they didn't try to elude the little girls. And yeah, there's just not a whole lot to talk about. It's very vapid. I was like this during the group chat. I was like, yeah, you can watch this one. It's vapid. That one's vapid. Golly, a lot of vapidness. Anyway, yeah, there's definitely better. That's been a problem this whole season. I've either been thinking about previous shows from earlier seasons of this year, or I'm just like, I wonder what's coming out next season and what looks better than what we're going to be talking about. Because then we have the great Jahi will not be defeated, which is based off of the manga by Wakame Konbu. It's directed by Mirai Minato, written by Michiko Yokote, and produced by Silverlink. So, once respected as the Demon Realm's second greatest authority, the Demon King's aide, Jahi, ruled her subjects with fear. But when a magical girl attacks and destroys a mystic gem containing massive power, the Demon Realm is destroyed. Although she survives, Jahi has lost almost all of her powers and finds herself stranded in the human world with a childlike appearance. We'll get to that in a second. In order to gather more mystic gems so that she can permanently restore both her original form and the demon realm, Jahi will have to adjust to her new life to deal with everyday problems that she has never experienced before, from working to pay for living expenses to arguing with her landlord whenever her rent is late. The great Jahi will not be discouraged. You know, it's kind of hard for, like, I feel bad for this show. It was one of the last latecomers to the season, which is why we're talking about it now, because it got started very late, like literally like the first week of August was when it was released, or from what I remember.
Yeah, August 1st.
And it's kind of hard to not think about the devil as a part-timer. I mean, the comedic edge is different, but there is something kind of funny. That's like, it's the Demon Realm's second greatest authority, not the first, the second. And I understand what it's doing. It's like, it's showing us like the viewpoint of a young adult having to work with low wages and just the struggle of it all. And the comedic angle is Jahi being so full of herself. And I guess, Mike, what did you think?
First of all, I have to ask, does Jahi kind of look like a demon version of Nagatoro?
Yes.
Yeah, 100%.
Good. I wanted to get that out of the way because that was one of the most distracting things about this. Okay, we'll get to it now. The detail of Jahi turning into a little girl when the gem or whatever it is runs out of power. Why did we need this minor inconvenience in this anime? Why couldn't it just be, oh, I lost my powers and then that's the end of it? It's one of those needless inconveniences to a premise that already could have like stood on its own.
It's definitely like, I know some people say like, well, at least they don't lewd the kid, but they do
That's
lot
a complete lie. They elude the kid. The first scene is a naked bathing scene for a 5-year-old or whatever the hell she's supposed to be. Like, I do not trust the person saying that they do not lewd the kid. That's like half of my notes for this show.
They don't give her actual clothes. Like, I guess they want to go with like, she's so pathetic and powerless and tiny that like that's the joke. But then it's just like, they don't give her like at least shorts. Like, give her shorts, because she's stuck in like, I guess, a kid version of her adult body forms outfit under there. But and then you keep looking at the legs, like especially like in the opening and such, where it's just like, you see her grabbing the bottom of her shirt, trying to pull it down. It's like, okay, yeah, that's creepy. I don't like that.
Like, Johnny, get in the fucking pants.
Yeah, just get some pants. Yeah, why did she?
It's her landlord not giving her pants. Why is her boss not giving her pants? Like, sorry, I know it's not my turn. But
No,
there's so many people in
go
her
ahead.
life who could give her pants. Just give her pants.
Hashtag give Jahi pants.
And that's the other thing. The humans around her, her landlord especially, is just kind of unbearable.
She's really obnoxious.
Yeah, I don't think I like any of the characters. Sometimes their dialogue is like chuckle worthy. Other than that, they're not really the greatest.
I will say I watched a little past the 3-episode mark, and I think Jahi's like most loyal servant, the girl with the green hair, who's actually way more successful than Jahi in the human world. She's great. She's very delightful, and I love how gullible she is when Jahi's just like, yes, I own this restaurant, aka the pub that she works at. And it's just like, if you want to get on the level of the humans, you have to cater to their needs so then they could be easily persuaded and enslaved. And she's just like, oh my gosh, that is brilliant. Are
they trying to ship these two? Because I got those vibes like with pretty much every scene they have together.
I'm not entirely sure.
I don't know. It made me uncomfortable. That idea makes me uncomfortable because we're introduced to her basically being a chair for Jockey. I'm just like, I don't like this.
No, I understand. So much of this show would have been at least quote unquote better if they just kept Jahi as an adult.
That's ultimately what it comes down to.
Because then it's like, okay, well, I would have found it more humor, like some of these jokes a little, at least easier to get through. I can't say funnier. But I did like the one where she's like, okay, I got to save up my money. And then she constantly keeps spending it on good food. I thought that was kind of cute. But other than that, the only real other, I guess, thing that works about the show is this assassin / rival that she encounters. If you look at the poster, she's, it's the, I guess, girl. Yeah, it's a girl. In the background with the blue, or you see her in the opening with the blue suit and the cape and such with the frill shoulder pads. What's kind of funny about her is that she's like Jahi does not know she exists. So it's like this character's like, my rival, my target, I will get Jahi. And she's just kind of like, where's that cute dog that lives in this neighborhood? I wonder where she is. Like, that's kind of funny, but she's only introduced for like half of the episode she's introduced. And then a lot of the humor is just, Jahi's poor. Look at how poor she is.
That's the other thing I have in my notes, that like the dialogue gets very repetitive. A lot of the episodes kind of follow a formula. It's the landlord saying, hey, give me money. And then her boss being like, you're such a hard worker. And then
give her a raise.
Yeah. And then her servant assistant person's like, oh my god, you're so much better at me than everything, even though she's doing very well for herself.
Teresa, did you watch this one?
I watched a bit of it. I didn't mind it, but yeah, now that you say the devil is a part-timer, that I'm certainly getting those vibes, but wouldn't say it's at the top of my pile. So you can
well, there was like so much going against this show because right around when this show aired, they announced season 2 of A Devil is a Part-Timer. So it's like, wow, throw salt in the wound, why don't you?
Ouch.
I think it's been said, the little girl shirt thing, it just confused me for like a good 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And I'm also offended by her adult devil form with no clothes. Like where's the rest of the outfit? It just seems, and I was like, they just really must have drawn those two first, and they were just not changing it, and that's where we are. With the show.
I wonder what the manga is like, if it's just this, because I don't know. I know we don't look at the manga or care about the manga, and we'll talk about this with the realist hero a little later. But I want to jump into these shows without even knowing or acknowledging the manga. I want to see if these stand on their own, and they should be able to. And if I'm not enjoying the anime, yeah, maybe I'll enjoy the manga, but maybe I won't. you know. Yeah, there's just not a whole lot to talk about with this one, which I don't know. It's like I said, it came out, it was like one of the last ones along with the Itaten deities that we'll really get into later. But Haley, what did you think?
Yeah, everyone kind of covered it already. I just want to also bring up that this show looks and sounds like absolute ass. Like, it's so poorly animated, and all of the music sounds like Wii music, and that was driving me crazy. Like, literally all of it was like sitting in the Me lounge going bloop, boop, boop, and I'm like, oh my god, like this doesn't match anything that's happening on the screen. But yeah, you're right in that it has a lot going against it without even getting into the fact that it's just not all that well written. The timing's really poor on a lot of these jokes. Like, there's sections where I go, this joke could be funny if they had an idea of how to time it. Like, I think the big one there was when the bar owner found her demon stone thing, and Jai's like, misfortunes will befall you. And the barmaid sits there and goes, oh yeah, like when I stubbed my toe. And it's like, there's ways to tell that where that would have been really funny, but it just kind of lays there as it is. And that's kind of just what this show is. Like, it lays there. And aside from that really bizarre side turn into being like a Tenchi Muyo space battle riff at the end of episode 3, there's really not a lot going on in this show that we haven't already talked about.
I did like the magical girl at the beginning. She just waltzes in like it's nobody's business and just takes the shortcut and just wrecks everything. No like valiant speech and saying like, your days are over, Jahi.
She just kind of comes in like, hi, you're done, bye.
Yeah, bye. It's like everything. It's like why don't you just shoot them while they're talking or something like that kind of thing. But next up, we'll go on to something that I think is a lot more interesting to talk about. Remake Our Life. Before I start into it, I meant to put this with the slice of life anime, but I forgot and I mislabeled it as a comedy romance anime because it's more slice of life than rom-com. So sorry about that. So it's based off of the manga and light novels by Nachi Kyo. It's directed by Tomoki Kobayashi. It's written by Nachi Kyo and produced by Feel. Interesting name for a studio. So, life is not going well for 28-year-old Kiyoya Hashiba. Having left his office job to pursue a career in the video game industry, his internship at a popular game studio abruptly ends, leaving him unemployed and forcing him to move back in with his parents. Additionally, his jealousy towards the success of the Platinum Generation, a group of similarly aged creators, has caused him to regret his decision to attend a traditional university instead of an arts college. Even though he believes there are no second chances in life, Kiyoya is suddenly given one when he wakes up one day and finds himself 10 years in the past. Instead of choosing business school like he originally had, Kiyoya decides to pursue his passions and attends the Onaka University of Art. There, he meets classmates Aiko Kawasagawa, the woman who had hired him as an intern in the present, alongside his new housemates and future Platinum Generation members. Underachieving artist Aki Shino, aspiring singer and actress Nanako Kogure, and naturally gifted writer Surayuki Rokuonji. With each project they complete together, Kiyoya and his friends venture closer to discovering their true potentials as creators and remaking their lives into the ideal versions they desire. Haley, why don't you start with this one? What did you think about this show?
I liked this show with reservations. I think the first half of episode 1 is probably the best thing that's come out of this season, I will say. Just the tracking of Kyoya's life, how he got to the point where he's so ready to just give up on everything and sleep all day is really well done and feels very real. There's not a whole lot of anime, quote unquote anime bullshit jutting into it. It's just the story of a kid who got close to the sun and almost saw his dreams realized, and then it fell apart for reasons that weren't related to him. And it's told very plainly. There's not a whole lot of frills to it, but it's very involving, and it does a lot to get us involved and interested in this character, because Kyoya kind of walks a fine line where he is halfway between being a realized character and a potato, but he walks the good side of it. Like we learn he's a diligent worker, and we see he's a diligent worker. He doesn't have to be shoveled to us. There's a lot of shows we're going to talk about where we're shoveled plot points about our lead, and it's just like, I don't see that happening to me. But Kirya's not like that. We see what he's good at. We see that he's a good manager, that he's diligent at work, that he takes on a lot, that he has drive and ambition and goals. We don't have to be told these things, and that's always a good sign. But when we start getting into the second half of episode 1 and episode 2, the show still has charm, but then it starts bringing in kind of like Love Hina shit. That's kind of like dampens the experience a bit for me. And the biggest one is the blue-haired girl who talks like a child. That's just not a thing I'm into. They're setting him up. They set her up to be a huge part of this show. We find out very not shockingly that she's one of the platinum generation. Like, I pegged that the second she showed up. She's just really irritating as a character, and it's mainly because she talks like that, and it's just not, it's so unnecessary. She sounds like more of a child than the actual children in Cheat Pharmacist. And then there's like comedic girls beating up dudes and boob jokes. It's just like, it's not really necessary, and kind of juts up against the tone of everything else. Like, these interludes are few and far between. But when you're dealing with a main plot of Kyoya now realizing, oh shit, it's not just as easy as redoing my life. I have to actually go to school. I have to redo everything. My knowledge of the future could mean I'm plagiarizing from someone here. Like, there's a lot of interesting stuff going on in this show that's just a little hampered by the fact that the creators are like, oh shit, this is an anime, quick, have her like fall down and straight into his crotch. So it's like, that's not necessary. Like, this is a really compelling show without that. It just didn't need to be there. But that being said, it sounds like I'm being super negative about this, but I did really enjoy this show for what it is. And I really enjoy the plot line of it and how it seems like it's going to spin out into something a bit deeper than we get in a lot of these kinds of isekai time travel shows. And it makes it very clear this isn't like a power fantasy or like a romantic fantasy or like most isekai are. This is someone who is literally going to redo his life, and that's pretty fascinating. It's odd that we don't have more of those.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of like Tokyo Revengers in that regard. Being able to travel back in time, though not being able to go back to the present and such with remake our life and whatnot. Mike, what did you think?
You're gonna see this in my top 5, and I think a big part of that is the first episode did such a good job of, establishing who our main character is, what makes him so compelling, like what makes him a person that we want to root for. Like, we want to see him become, the better version of himself. And just structurally, compared to the other show that had an hour-long premiere, The Detective Is Already Dead.
Oh God, I forgot about that show.
That show should have like had a better first episode, but it just fell flat on its face. Where this one, it took the time it had, and it made the best use of the hour or 50-minute length. Right
on.
Well, Haley, I completely see like the criticisms that you pointed out. This episode, I'll be saying the word edge a lot, and the edge is unavoidable in certain parts of this series when it just focuses on these characters kind of putting in the work and doing whatever they can to follow their dreams. That's the good stuff. That's the stuff that made me want to watch beyond the second episode, because I didn't think that particular ending was satisfying enough. So I had to see the next one where we get more of a resolution. to what happened. But yeah, this one is really one that I recommend.
Teresa, what did you think?
Yeah, I really like I mean, it's very self-reflexive, talking about the industry itself. So I thought that was very interesting. Definitely can relate to, you know, going for your dreams. Like what do you do looking back, having those regrets? I didn't like the main character at first. Obviously, he's not in the best shape of his life, but he really did grow on me, especially when he was trying to prove to the chief, you know, he was useful. And I just thought that was so cute. So when they fall, I was very like invested and very sad. Definitely bit too slow of a pace for a double episode. Don't understand why they did that. I feel like it could have been just fine split, but I definitely was invested. Probably will continue to watch. Didn't care for the head in the crotch scene either.
Oh, God.
And she
Yeah.
didn't really stick up for him, which kind of irritated me, and just let the other girl berate him. And she should be like, yeah, I slept in his bed and I drank his yogurt. And that's what that was.
Yeah, she's kind of shitty. She's kind of shitty. And then he has to carry her home later. Like, girl, how are you alive?
Yeah, she seems a little out of it. And he's I'm like, you get, put me in a compromising position. Then we're going to be like besties and hang out all the time. And I'm going to like give you a piggyback ride home. Like, what? I don't know. That was a bit weird. But then, of course, it ends up being his like dream animator, character designer. So the plot thickens. So we'll see where that goes.
I'm going to sound like the bad guy and say I didn't really care for the first hour episode. Like, not that, like, I agree. I think part of it was very well executed. I thought it took a little too long for it to just kind of get into gear with him getting sent back in time and such.
It could have been.
I guess it's just like I was a QA tester and it hit a little close to home for me with being kind of on a sinking ship, but getting a job on that sinking ship.
Oh.
So I was just like, I don't want to see this. Just get to the point where he travels back in time. And then, yeah, I mean, we've all said it. Like, oh, you slept in my bed. Oh, head in the crotch. Oh, no. Oh, what's that stuff on your face? Oh, it's yogurt. Okay, thank God, but still. This show has a problem with, like y'all said, it has a really touching and compelling drama with a actual moral issue of our main character. Like I want to remake my life, but I have to be very careful because my actions could cause consequences for the others. And I don't want their lives ruined because they don't know I traveled back in time. I thought that was like the most interesting part. And then the anime has to be an anime. So boob jokes. Oh no, I saw you with your shirt off, even though you have a bra and pants on.
That was ludicrous. There's no way she wouldn't have noticed she wasn't wearing a shirt.
Yeah, no. Ugh. And then the fourth episode has them shooting another film project at a beach. So of course you get them all in bikinis. Hell, the opening is like full focused on them in bikinis and swimsuits and such.
So that was our obligatory summer beach episode.
What's weird is it doesn't stay for the whole episode. It's really just for the opening 5 minutes. And then it focuses on our lead character interacting with the aspiring singer. And then it got really good again, because then it's just like you watch that fourth episode and it's like, the guy tried to touch the redhead's shoulder and it's like, whoops, pulled on the tide to the top. Wacky shenanigans. And it's like, no, it's like that point from like a few seasons ago where I was like, I really like this idol anime because it's got a really interesting hook until the idol anime elements popped up. It's that kind of situation. And unfortunately, that's kind of what happens with this show. It just constantly gets good, and then it kind of takes a step back into anime drama, melodrama, and what have you. But I still consider it good. I don't know if I would consider it in my top 5, but it's definitely one of the better anime of this season. I'd rather watch this show than like a mass majority of the shows we touched upon. Speaking of touch, let's move on to the Duke of Death and his maid, the problematic favorite of the season. It's based off of the manga by Koharu Inoue, and the adaptations directed by Yoshinobu Yamakawa, written by Hideki Shirane, and as produced by JC staff. The director is actually the same person who did High Score Girl on Netflix, so if the CGI looks familiar and you've seen that show, it's the same team, basically. As the elegant, frail flower petals wither away into lifeless ashes, the young Duke is tragically reminded of the despicable power forced upon him, the ability to kill anything he touches. Scorned by his family, he is sent away to live in near isolation. Fortunately, he is not entirely alone, as the manor's staff, his dutiful butler Rob, and the flirtatious maid Alice keep him company and make his life less miserable. As the Duke's romantic feelings for Alice grow, so does his continued frustration for the limits set by his unfortunate ability. Therefore, he resolves to break the curse cast upon him all those years ago, not only for his sake, but Alice's as well, for he is painfully aware of how difficult it is to avoid the touch of a loved one. We'll get into the problematic aspects fairly soon, and I'm sure we all have kind of the same issue with the show. Teresa, you said this was your favorite anime of the season. What did you think?
I think you misinterpret that. It's definitely not my favorite.
I know.
She
I
left
was
out her
joking.
sarcasm tag.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, it's my least. Okay, now that I hear you talk about it though, I'm like, you know what? It's not so bad. After I watched like a lot of the action adventure, I'm like, that's being so harsh. But it put me to sleep every single episode. I had to go and restart. So that was, it just didn't grab me, and then it was just boobs, and I was like, what is going on? It's gone too far. Sometimes it can go too far with the boobs. Okay, anime, she's just unnecessarily busty, the maid, and also like, what age is she? This doesn't make sense. I do want to know her backstory. She's got something going on with that witch, so like I'm vaguely interested. I also don't like the sister in love with the butler.
Oh gosh, yeah.
What on net? Like the sister's there for 5 minutes and then she comes back in love with the like it's gross. It was giving me Black Butler vibes, which I do like, and then it just got kind of horny, and I was like, no, this isn't for me. I didn't hate it. I just probably won't continue it.
Yeah, no, my question to you was more just jokingly. I know I read your the comments that you wrote down in the document. I just thought I'd be funny. Haley, what did you think?
So I think I liked this more than maybe the rest of you. Part of this is because this was one I was actually excited for, because I am reading the manga. I have been following the manga for a long time. And it's got my kind of artistic vibe, which is Victorian super jail, basically. And this anime translates the manga faithfully, for better and for worse. I'd say the only thing the anime does that's weirder than the manga is gives Alice boobs that are like Z cups. It's ridiculous. She looks proportional in the manga. I swear to God. But yeah, the problem with this show is the same problem the manga has, is that there's absolutely no reason for Alice to be harassing the Duke. They like each other. The narrative just needs to reframe that bit to make it less weird. It doesn't make any sense why they do that to me at all. Like, the narrative has its own internal thrust to keep them from touching each other. Like, that's the whole damn plot. There doesn't need to be an added, oh, and Alice just keeps pushing it anyways. Like, she's stupid. She's gonna fucking die if she touches him. Like, she knows this. I know
Right.
she knows this. This is like a huge part of the plot. So it just really doesn't need to be there, because you could just get the kind of like the moment at the end of episode 2 when they're out looking at the moon. You could get these lovely character bits out of this that don't revolve around this weird harassing trend as a thing in anime. People have been kind of dogpiling how this looks online. I'm not going to say it looks great, but it doesn't look like X-Arm, which is what people seem to be implying.
That's
It
the
seems
that's
like-
the brown standard for me.
Yeah,
Like,
it's the
forever.
brown
wait.
standard. And
People
it
think
doesn't-
this look. Wait, people think this looks as bad as X-Arm.
that was the initial reactions I was seeing, like that this was just looked so awful. And I think it doesn't look great, but I think as opposed to X-Arm, where I don't think anybody knew what they were doing, this
Nope.
seems like they were too ambitious to pull, like they were going for something a little more ambitious than they could have pulled off with their budget or time. Because there's some really nice like 2D scene changes. The background work is really solid. Like they're going for a vibe here. It just doesn't always work.
Yeah, the clock tower was beautiful.
Exactly. Like I love the end of episode 2 where they're standing outside with the moon and they're like kind of half dancing, and there's the pan to the moon with the credits and everything. I thought that was really well done. But yeah, it's got all the problems of the manga. The manga is one of my problematic faves, but it doesn't change Alice being completely idiotic for most of the beginning. It doesn't change Viola having a crush on the butler. And I mean, to be fair, the butler never reciprocates. So I think that's the thing that makes me not as worried about it. But I knew that because I'm at chapter 165 of the manga,
Dang.
which I can't expect everybody else to know.
But that's good to know because yeah, that was like one of the first major red flags that I caught outside of the harassing angle, but I'll get to my thoughts about that in a second. To be clear, I mostly agree. I just want to talk about a little more about it. But yeah, when she says like, "Oh my gosh, I want the hot butler," and it's like, "Girl, you're like 12. Knock that off."
Yeah. This
or
show
15 or something. I don't know.
Yeah. This show could really benefit from like saying how old these characters are. The manga gave me the impression that both the Duke and Alice are young adults, like early, or no, they actually mentioned this because she's going to inherit his mother's wealth at some point, I think when he turns 18. So they're like 17, if I'm remembering correctly. And Viola's not that much younger than him. I want to say she's like 15. And he has a second brother who I want to say is older, but for whatever reason is not inheriting this whole shit. I'm not remembering correctly, but like the brother is either like a year younger than him or a year older than him. And I cannot remember how that pans out because he comes off as older than the Duke for whatever reason. But yeah, a lot of my notes are just about how whack Alice's boobs are, honestly. It's extremely distracting. But it's better than people are telling you it is, but the manga is a quicker read and also dispenses with a lot of this nonsense within the first 30 chapters and then gives you a pretty solid mystery story about how they're going to, get this curse off of him. So honestly, my recommendation, I'm doing the thing I hate, but my recommendation would be read the manga, maybe. But like, if you watch this and it's not your thing, don't worry. That makes sense.
Oh yeah, no, I perfectly understand if someone does not vibe with this one. But before I get into my thoughts, Mike, what did you think?
Yeah, I think problematic fave is like a perfect way to describe this. Because on the one hand, there is a lot to love about, the craft behind this series. I really got into the kind of oil painting look of the backgrounds. The character designs, like, yeah, the CGI can get a little distracting, but again, it's nowhere near as bad as X-Arm.
The characters' mouths actually move properly and not like puppets.
Exactly.
Right.
But like, as far as like whether or not you'll like enjoy this, this anime kind of feels like a Rorschach test. Like sure, on the one hand, the actual romance between the Duke and Alice is actually really compelling, but at the same time, if you're one of those people who just like cannot get behind Alice's constant teasing and sexual harassment, his words, not mine, then yeah, I totally understand if this isn't your cup of tea, but as someone who does like love this aesthetic, like the Victorian era Gothic kind of setting, and also, you know, the whole tragedy behind his curse. I want to see where this is going. Like, I want to see how he plans on like getting rid of the curse. Like, what are the consequences of that? Like, what does that mean for his family? All of that stuff. I am quite invested in this, but that doesn't mean I expect everyone to be as well.
So my opinion on this one, I actually really like this. The harassment angle notwithstanding, I really fell in love with the cutesy romance angle and just how like he views the world, and just how the crushing isolation of his existence, that he can't get close to anyone. There's no real reason for him to be intimately connected to anything in the world. He's just basically like accepted he's probably just gonna die alone in this mansion of his, because anything he tries to touch living dies. And like you could really, I was compelled by his story arc. And I think the problem with the anime is the fact that the anime is showing you very harassy comedy, and they're playing the harassment up for jokes. But then the anime kind of frames it as, oh, it's not that bad, when it's like, no, it kind of is. It's that what's that term where it's just like,
I think the word you're looking for is dissonance.
Yeah, the dissonance. And that's what I get here with the Duke of Death and his maid. There's a really sweet romance between the two. And I really liked episode 2 and I liked episode 3. And I like, they care about one another. And it's a better romance anime than like the ones that we experienced last season, like with Koikimo and that Osamake childhood friend won't lose one. Because I at least liked the chemistry and the romance between these two, and that dancing sequence was really nice. If they just rewrote the approach of Alice's like flirting and such, because I feel like it's telling us two different things. Like the wires are crossed, and it is weird. So, and that's why I think, like, yes, I get why someone might not gel with this. I'll admit, I think if some of these jokes were phrased or like executed differently, I think they'd be a lot funnier. Like, I think there is kind of like a dark tinge to Alice being like, well, I keep calling her Alice. That's her name, right?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
Just making sure.
Alice
like,
is the maid, Viola is the sister.
Yeah. And Alice is like, you know, it'd be hot if I died kissing you. And, or like, I guess I like this one little bit. I forgot if it's in the 3rd or 4th episode. He's just where he gets a letter from her, and he's like, well, if I'm not feeling great, I'll come to your place. And of course, there's the fan servicey like punchline, which was just like, okay. But then she's just like, listen, it sounds like you're not sleeping well. Sleep here. I got you some tea, and hopefully you sleep better here.
That was in the 3rd episode.
Okay, I'm making sure. I think the setup of these episodes kind of makes it feel like they're going to blend together, if that makes sense. I like this one. I think it might creep around the number 5 spot, just because I like the romance and I like the chemistry, and that's overpowering the more problematic elements of it. But I have to see by the end of this. So if this anime sounds interesting to you, definitely give it a watch. You'll have to tell us if any of y'all read the manga or watch the show, what y'all think. Now let's talk about I guess I don't want to say it's the most divisive show of the season, but I've definitely seen people be split right down the middle of this one. The Dungeon of Black Company, the anime based off of the manga by Yohei Yasumura and directed by Mirai Minato. And this writer pops up again, Deko Akao, who also
hope they're
wrote
sleeping. Good lord.
Seriously.
Well, it's like
6 anime.
They're already doing The Detective Is Already Dead, Vanitas, and now this, and I think one other show, I forgot which one, but yeah. And the anime is made by Silverlink. Kenji, who lacks any kind of work ethic, is a layabout in his modern life. He basically took advantage of a bunch of overseas business loopholes and basically made a bunch of money that worked for him. And now he's just like, I don't have to lift a finger while you peasants work yourself to the bone and die while I sit here and enjoy the high life. And then he gets transported pretty like nonchalantly to another world, but not as the grand fantasy of a hero welcomed with open arms. He instantly gets shoved into a black company, or just like this company that uses exploitive labor of it, and it's an evil mining company. And well, yeah, that's really what it is. Teresa, what did you think about this show?
I wasn't on board, but it definitely grew on me. I can see what the commentary is and why it's a little bit divisive, but I'm not as like deep into the industry, so I some of that stuff kind of goes over my head. I do like obviously the condemnation of capitalism and kind of exposing how people are trying to game the system, for sure, but it's just a little too kooky for me, in terms of what they're actually doing. I feel bad for his little sidekick. He's always getting hurt in every episode. I think his name is Nia, and I'm always concerned for him, basically. But I did like the ending of episode 3. Was spoiler, they blow up some people. So that was great. I was like, you know what, it is kind of funny. But definitely dragged for me episode 1, episode 2, and like how you pointed out, he just shows up there. I was like, is he going back? Is this like a game? I was a little confused in the first 10 minutes, and I was like, no, he's just in the dungeon and his life is terrible and things are going to try to eat him. Okay, we're just rolling with that. So it took me a little while to accept it. I did like that he convinced the creature to help him and that it wants to eat everything, as does the ant queen, which I thought was pretty hilarious. I'm a little skeeved out about ants, but he made friends with them. I see where it's going, but every time the ants are on screen, I do a little kind of shiver, like, oh, the ant.
That's with me and spiders, so I perfectly understand.
Yeah, definitely funny in parts. I'm just probably not as invested in his scheming, and that's where it kind of falls short for me. But I do love the ending credits; they're very cute.
This is one of the few shows where I feel like it has a really good opening and a really good ending song. Like I like both. So, but that's just me. Haley, what did you think about this show?
So I kind of feel about this like the same way I felt when I saw Jojo Rabbit, where everyone was like very firmly on one side or the other. And I was like, I just didn't think it was all that funny. Like, I'm not morally opposed to it. I think this show is extremely incisive in certain ways. But the only time it really all gelled together for me in a humorous way was when our lead was an ant and was convincing all the other ants to rebel against the queen ant. There was just some really delirious kind of Invader Zim energy to the way that he was doing all of this. And I think I am the opposite of Teresa, where I think this show needs to lean into its kookiness a lot more. I think that's when it's at its best, is when it's like very high concept nonsense with the underwriting idea of capitalism sucks. Because I think episode 3 was almost too cruel to be funny for me. It was too real and too incisive. And the messaging was very good. And they really capture a lot of the energy of being stuck in an extremely toxic workplace. But none of it was exceptionally humorous, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Also, this show has our only boob first intro of the season for the main boss lady. And I feel like I need to point that out, because otherwise this show is really good about not being like that. Like the little dragon girl is never like sexualized or anything. She's sitting there eating garbage all day, which is great. I was like, oh God, do I have to be worried that this is going to be like the mascot girl? Nah, she runs around in a burlap sack eating garbage. I'm like, okay, perfect, great, well done, anime. But yeah, I don't really have much else to add because there's stuff that definitely made me laugh about this. It's kind of falls in the middle for me because I think it needed to either be super dark and super incisive or completely kooky, wild, with a nice underlying message. And I think right now it doesn't really know which of those it wants to be. Also, I want to give a shout out to the dub cast because they're great. Like,
oh, they're so good.
Raina has like this fun, like Kristen Shaw type voice, and I really love that poor dragon who keeps getting stuck in horrible situations.
Oh, what
That
Wanabe?
that poor soul. Like, there's a lot to like about this show. It's just not gelling altogether for me.
No, that's perfectly understandable. Like, I totally get why people might not gel with this. But Mike, what did you think?
Okay, so disclaimer, I did watch the dub. I haven't seen it in subbed yet, but so that may or may not influence my opinion on this. But that being said, I love the show. It kind of reminds me. I'm trying not to compare like all of the like comedy isekais to Konosuba because that show casts a pretty large shadow over everything. This has that kooky edge that I really like, and plus I think the main character Kinji is just that like delightfully stupid, arrogant asshole that he's too charming to not want to root for. And also the company that he's forced into it's such a great like parody of all of the usual workplace comedies where like the corporation is like pretty much like the typical soul-sucking dead-end job. Because this is set in an urban fantasy world, it puts a more fresh spin on that premise. And yes, as pointed out, the dub cast is great. And I think episode 2 was one of my favorites because of the whole Invader Zim vibe of Kinji's rebellion speech with the ants. Just the delivery of it and like the way his voice is like super high pitched was just perfect.
Yeah, so for context, for those who don't know what a black company is, it's a system used in Japan, though if you hear the horror stories about the video game industry, it's kind of there as well, where companies exploit labor and like basically sweatshop levels of just bad employment and working conditions. Just like, who cares what happens to them? All that matters is the profit. And yeah, this show is a really dark, cynical take, like comedy, kind of like Konosuba, but just like talking about the perils and the why a very specific version of capitalism is extremely bad. But yeah, I watched this both in sub and dub because I rewatched the first 3 episodes with the dub, and I love Christopher Escalante as Kinji, and I like Rim, the dragon girl, who's voiced by Caitlin Barr, who she's just like, deals up, feed me or else I'll eat you. And then Wanibe, the crocodilian demi-human, who's voiced by Steven Sanders, who brings like this very piglet innocence to him.
He has a wormy kind of vibe to his voice.
Well, it's just like he's not assertive. He's just kind of like, okay, yes, I'll do whatever you want, sir. No problem. Sorry, boss.
It's getting definite Deku vibes from him.
Yeah. And I will say it was kind of funny to see him in the second episode get trapped with with one of those fake treasure chest monsters, and the meta-ness of just like, oh, and not, instead of the female character trapped like this with the tentacles wrapping all around him, it's the male. And then the main character's just like, who asked for this fan service here? But it is a very fighting show that, yeah, I think it could go a little further. When you're introduced to, like, if you look at the poster work art for Dungeon of Black Company, there's this blue, or you see in the opening, this blue-haired woman who's like the top adventurer. She's like, if you've seen 30 Rock, she's basically like Kenneth or Jack McBrayer's character from there, where she's just like, man, the company and the organization's great. There's nothing wrong with them. I am so fortunate to work for them.
Oh God, she is Kenny.
Yeah. And her dynamic with our main characters are great. And so I had to stop myself because I watched 8 episodes
Wow.
of this show, and they actually take it to the most extreme level because when you look at the opening, you see that there's a demon purple-haired girl.
Mhm.
So spoilers, he actually gets transported at one point along with the dragon girl to the future, to a future that was utterly destroyed by capitalism. It went full Mad Max or Fallout.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And one of the best parts is that they go to where the demon army has enslaved humans and such. And you find out that the person in charge is the ant that he helped in episode 2. Like the demon ants evolved to a point to where like they were able to actually talk, like, well, speak human or common or whatever, the English language is called in this fantasy world. And he's actually super happy to see our main character. And it takes a really interesting turn about how they're handling this, because the working conditions for the humans, like apparently the nightmare version for like this futurescape is that like, oh yeah, we make them work 8 hours a day for 5 days a week and give them 2 days off. And they find that torturous for some reason. It's like the brainwash. It's like dealing with the brainwash of like thinking that the company that they worked for at the beginning was perfect. So now that they have a better working condition, they find it torturous. It's really interesting that like when it gets to there, and all the characters have great dynamics. The purple-haired mage girl is really stupid, but like in a Aqua from Konosuba kind of way, where she's just like, we're going to save the day. And it's just like, are you kidding me? No, we're not. kind of way. And yeah, I think it should have gone further with its commentary, or at least be extremely dark. So I agree with that. But I did laugh quite a lot. I love this one point where they try to beat this big monster, and the main character is saved by the demon girl, and she's just like, instead of just being like, he's my friend, I'm going to protect him, she's like, he's my food. You do not get to eat him without my permission first.
I kind of love when the characters like that have that sort of dynamic. You can't kill him, that's my job.
It's like that Ghost and Molly McGee trailer that came out where he's just like, how dare you make fun of her? That's my job. Kind of angle. But I really enjoyed it. I definitely understand why people are turned off by it, since, Black company policies and terms are really bad. And sometimes there's comedy that shouldn't cross certain lines, and that's going to depend on the individual person. Even people like Mel Brooks said, like, yeah, I'm going to talk about all this, but I'm not going to show this on screen because there's nothing funny about it. So I think it's one of the more interesting shows. Like, even if you don't or are not fully on board with it, there's a lot more to talk about here, which is, to me, that's more interesting than the Cheat Pharmacist or the Great Jahi, where there's just nothing to talk about. Here, it's just like, I would find the discussion of how it handles its commentary about capitalism, the comedy angle and such. Does it work for you? Does it not? That would be at least interesting. It would keep the show in the spotlight instead of just fading in the background.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah.
This show has more meat on its bones, and it's funnier, so there's a lot more to enjoy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I
I
also
will
want to say this show doesn't really punch down either. The joke is always firmly on either our lead, who is a scumbag who was taking advantage of a similar system,
Right.
or this system itself, or our poor dragon friend getting trapped by a tentacle monster. But like the jokes about capitalism are never making fun. It's not like Jahi where the joke is she's poor. It's always the sights are squarely set on the people that need to be taken down a couple of pegs.
Yeah, like I think it's the third episode when they're talking about the like we buy the best weapons here, and he's just like, "Are you serious? They work us to the bone to get the materials to make this weapon, and we don't make enough to buy other weapons, so they force us to buy the weapons that they make, so they keep the money flowing from us." And
Yeah.
I don't know, I just find this show really fascinating because I had no idea what it was really about, because I was just like, oh, here's a guy who gets instantly turned, like, instead of being the hero of the story, he gets turned into like a servant or a grunt and such. And then to find out that the dark comedy cynicism about capitalism angle just kind of like caught. But let's move on to the action adventure, to I guess I would call this the worst show of the season. Itaten deities only know peace. So let's get the content warning out of the way first. Rape is a major part of the first episode's ending. It is constantly brought up throughout the show. It is played for laughs, like after the really traumatic first episode. And I don't blame you for bailing on that description alone. So let's get started. Sorry, I'm trying to hold in my anger because I watched all the episodes released and I have so much to say. It's based off of the manga by Amahara. It's directed by Seimi Kirokoro. It's written by Hiroshi Seko, and it's produced by the ever-problematic Mappa. 800 years ago, terrifying demons threatened mankind's existence. On the brink of extinction, humans prayed to their gods, calling out for someone to save them. Emerging from these desperate pleas for salvation, battle deities known as the Itaden were born. Possessing unnatural strength and endurance, the Itaden managed to defeat the demons, and an era of unprecedented peace was finally ushered in. Having never encountered demons before, the present generation of Itaden knows nothing of the demons' brutality, but they have instead only lived in a peaceful existence. Okay. Training under Rin, the only remaining Itaden from 800 years ago, the new Itaden find ways to survive in a time where they are seemingly outlived their usefulness. However, when the tyrannical Zobel Empire resurrects a demon, the misfit crops of gods are called to the battlefield against their natural enemy once more. Okay, so, Haley, let's start with you.
The show blows. The show is awful. And I'm going to go against the grain of one of the only things people are saying is good about this show. This show is seizure inducing. And I don't mean this like lightly. I mean that the colors, the animation, and a lot of what's going on are way too bright, flashing quickly, CGI monstrosity shit. Like the OP is real. The OP is a good song and horrifyingly animated. Like, I don't think this show looks good at all. I think it does some clever things with lighting, making different types of lighting, different colors. But other than that, I think the show looks it's too much. They threw everything they could at it because they knew the storyline was complete bullshit. And we're going to talk about the storyline, I'm sure, in much detail. But the show is awful. It's about these Itaden deities who, in the beginning, we think have only known peace is because, it's been 800 years, nothing's happened in 800 years. And suddenly this evil genius resurrected a demon. Oh no, what do we do? No, it turns out that they're so fucking stupid that they just let demons kind of populate over 800 years. And then one finally resurrected a monster and they're like, oh shit, now that's threatening us. And they're just letting humans die by the truckload because they don't want to deal with it. So they created their own fucking problem. And I'm supposed to be invested in these sociopathic idiots after this. The show I think the show knows that you don't want to be super invested in it, but they have to adapt this crap anyway, because there's a lot more focus on the villains who are literally genocidal maniacs. So there's nothing really to hook into there either. The only vaguely decent-ish, and this is a huge asterisk after decent-ish. It's kind of like say, this is the kind of decent-ish where it's like Charlie Kelly is the only decent person in It's Always Sunny. You still know he's murdered somebody. Like, so for that show, it's Rin who trains the new Itaden deities by just beating the shit out of them, which I'm apparently supposed to find funny, but they all look like children, especially the little girl with huge tits that looks like a child. And she's another child with huge tits, and it's just like, great, thank you, anime. You needed to have every wrong thing with you in this. But like graphic depictions of getting the shit kicked out of them. And it's just like, I don't know if this is I think it's supposed to be funny. It's not. It's kind of disturbing. So all of this melange of toxic soup is happening. And a lot of people have talked about how episode 1 ends in the seemingly played for laughs rape. And it does, but everything before it was so disgusting that it almost didn't even register to me that that's what was happening. Like, I was just like, oh, okay, I guess this is happening now too. Like, it is so aggressively in poor taste, edgelord nonsense with no real, I think my best note is, let me find it. The show might benefit from some mystery or pacing, maybe. And that's kind of like, it's just, nothing about this makes any sense. Even when you start pairing out the really obviously gross stuff. And I want to say about the rape, because they rape a nun, and it's just really gross. The nun's use in this whole show is viscerally disgusting. Like, in the first 3 episodes, we only see her get gang raped and then like off screen for like 5 seconds wonder if there really is a god. And then in the OP she's fucking naked with her arms over her nipples praying, and I'm just like, this is angering. Like, I understand why Cameron is angry at this show. The show is infuriating on just about every level. And I want to point out that the ending theme, which shows some of these genocidal maniac girls just going out and having shopping, fucking offensive. Like, this show is awful. It's the only reason it's not worse than Redo of Healer for me is that I'm pretty sure we're not going to get full episodes of brainwashed rape later on. But knowing this show, I don't know. Maybe that's going to happen. Maybe that'll happen to the little twin tail girl with the aqua dips. Who knows? This show seems capable of anything depraved and nonsense. Maybe episode 7 will just be a Faces of Death tape. I don't know. This was the last thing I watched. And I'm glad I watched it last, because I don't think I would have watched anything else after this. Because it's like every time I think that we've dug more dirt up from below the line to just fall under an anime, something else happens. And
yeah,
one of the things I do want to point out about this show is that everyone is a misanthropic piece of shit. And one of the things that angers me the most about this show is that the world isn't like, we can see from every terrible situation in life, there's always, we always hear about at least someone who is going above and beyond to do the best they can in a horrible circumstance. And this show has nothing like that. And it appeals to people who have never seen anything like that in their lives. And it's on that level, this show is sad and pathetic, because there's a lot of imagery culled from war, genocide, from massacre and stuff, without any of the counterbalance that allowed us to see these acts of atrocities for what they were, and no counterbalance of the people who try to stop these kinds of things from happening. And the show treats all of that, the idea that maybe you might be hopeful about something, or that there may be something working behind the scenes to help you, as a joke. And it's honestly, fuck these people who made this. Like, this is garbage of the highest degree. Honestly, I think this made me angrier than Redo of Healer, because at least you can just write that off as rape porn trash. Like, sometimes people are turned on by that, and that has nothing to do with anything. It's disgusting, but that's what it is. This is execrable.
So you liked it? No.
That was great. Gonna cosplay as these motherfuckers. No.
No. Oy.
One thing I will say, I would like the character of Eastleigh in another show entirely. I think it's the only character that the show knows what they're doing.
Which one is Eastleigh
He's
again?
still Glasses Kid. He also
Oh.
sucks. He sucks, but he at least seems to have some sort of through plot line going with him.
Okay.
Okay.
But no.
I think as one of my notes was also I hate boobs, and I have no idea what that was attached to related to this show.
Yeah. Which anime said made you say
I
that?
know.
There
I
are
don't
like
know.
hundreds of them this season. Before I get into it, because I watched all the episodes out right now. So, Mike, what did you think?
So I think after hearing Haley's rant, it kind of takes my opinion and brings it down even lower. But wild speculation as to what happened to the show. I feel like in an alternate universe, this was like the next big hit from Studio Trigger, because I honestly think the animation style looks Trigger-esque a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But then somehow the show, this new hit show from Earth 79, somehow ended up in the hands of Mappa, fed through the Frank Miller filter, and all of the characters who could have been compelling and a story that could have been fascinating has just been warped and twisted and goblin slayered, thrown into a blender, then unblended, and then whatever this turned out to be. It's just one of those shows that the more you think about it, like the more you end up hating everything about it. Like there's nobody to root for. Like the characters all suck. They want you to laugh when Rin is beating the shit out of her students, but it's not funny, and they kind of overdo it to the point of repetition, kind of like the problem with Great Jahi. Repetition is part of the show's downfall. And as for the humans, well, they're Nazis, so we can't root for them either. I'm gonna let Cameron have the floor, because there's no saving this show. Like, yes, I do like the OP. The OP is a banger. A lot of these shows have great openings and ending themes, but that has no bearing on the actual content. This content is very not good.
Well, like I said, something pushed me and I just watched all the episodes that are out right now. For some reason, this show's only getting 11 episodes. Not 12, not 13, not 24, 11.
That's rare.
I am wondering what happened, because the manga is still
read
going.
the reviews.
Yeah. Probably, but we'll have to see. Or they just said, like, you know what, this is not a great one to adapt. Fine, we'll throw the money at it, but enough for 11 episodes, whatever.
They got to move on to their 45th show this year or whatever.
Yeah, they got to do that tacked op Destiny thing for next season. Yeah. So I had the reverse reaction to the first episode from you, Haley. I was like, oh, this is superly, like, cartoonishly pulpy and violent as hell. And yes, the art style, like, very distinct. It's by the same illustrator who wrote the Kobayashi's Dragon Maid manga. So yeah, if they looked Dragon Maid-ish, then there's a reason for that. Same person. And not this, the Itaden Deities was not written by the same person. It was just the same person who wrote and illustrated Kobayashi's Dragon Maid also did the illustrations for this show. And I understand there's supposed to be like a juxtaposition between the cutesier, cartoonier images with the hyperviolence. But it is like, after the first episode, you're pretty much over it. And then I was like too distracted by just how stupidly violent it all was.
Sorry, I just want to interject, but because I love things like Fist of the North Star. I get, like, the violence, it's just the context of the violence itself was so weird. Like, it would be like if you were watching an episode of Pokemon and suddenly, like, Ash got shot in the head. It was just like, what the fuck is this? Like, that's how the tone of this show is. It's like, we're fun. We're talking about shonen shit. Bam, you're dead. It's like, oh, okay then.
I mean, technically, that almost happened with Ash in the banned episode of when he was in the Safari Zone. He had a gun aimed at.
I knew you were gonna say that, and I'm like, don't mention it, camera. Just go with my analogy. Okay, it would be like if suddenly One Piece turned into a Vietnam War drama.
Yeah. No, your analogy was perfect. I was just.
Okay.
That's me. I ruin analogies. And then the last third happens where you just see the tyrannical army just kill everyone, burn down houses, and then they rape the nun, and that just kind of shot any excitement I had for the episode. I literally stopped watching the first episode after that, and then watched a little bit of King of the Hill, just be like, let's just process that for a second. And then I went back after an hour or two and watched the second episode, because they released 2 episodes in one day, which
it's like they knew. It's like they knew that they had fucked up pretty bad. It was odd. Yeah,
and a reoccurring gag that they do is that for any time they're about to explain exposition, they fast forward through it. And it's funny at first because it catches you off guard, but then they keep doing it throughout the show and it gets boring. And then they just like insult you by just summing it up in one sentence about what exactly they were talking about. So it's like, well, great, one gag that overstays its welcome. And these characters, just like we've all said, they suck. Especially like the main characters. We're supposed to root for them, and I can kind of understand the philosophy behind these deities. Like, they don't know about fighting giant demons. They think all they think about is like, oh, so demons are just these giant stupid monsters. They're not like human size, and they don't know how to think and procreate and such. They're just a-holes. Like, they're insufferable, especially the guy with the glasses. I hated him because he's trying to weasel his way out of like actually training and fighting.
He would be great in an evil student council show.
Oh, he would.
Like, the only reason I liked him is because it's like, this character type I like. He's the worst in this show. But the worst of the people who aren't raping nuns and genociding random villages. But
then the second episode fills in like parts of this, like the general woman with the long blonde hair that you also see in the ending. She's just like, what do y'all want to do? And they're just like we want to rape women, kids, men, elderly people. And it's like, oh gosh, dang it. It's like they pulled this from like the late 80s, early 90s ultra-violence anime boom that happened during that time.
See what I mean when I said like this anime was filtered through like the Frank Miller filter?
Yeah, it's like, was this written by the same people who did Guyver, like the old Guyver?
Yeah, and then the deities aren't even good at their jobs, that they weren't even aware that the demons came about and found a way to incorporate themselves into the human world. So it's just like they're bad at their jobs and they're unlikable. And then we get to the villains, who are just cartoonishly evil, and they would be much more interesting if everything else was better. The only one who's still taking the job seriously of killing the demons is the mentor. So here's a spoiler. The show does slightly ease off on the stupid rape edgelord stuff. It's still there, but they don't just bludgeon you over the head with it. They then move into something that makes the show the worst for an entirely different reason. Because, they keep building up that these demons are super strong and are powerful. They're the bad guys. Mm-hmm. Well, considering how quick the mentor killed one of their highest ranking demons, they're not actually that much stronger than them. The stakes got shot down hard because they were able, like, there's even a point where they're just like, they're basically begrudgingly like, well, I guess we gotta train to beat these demons. And it's like, screw you guys. You all suck. Because they're just like being forced against their will to actually do something about it. Gasp. Even though the villains are terrible, I'm going to talk about one of them because basically she got the most interesting arc or just like story behind her. If you watch the ending and you look at the of course you watch the second and third episode, you'll notice like a demon woman with black hair and of course the succubus like look to her.
Yes, and she's like breeding people or
yes.
something. I was
Yes.
like, it was a mite of shit in a giant pile of shit. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
I
no,
guess I
it's
accept
like
this.
like these people, like these characters are the worst, and it's like they didn't need to go this hard on them to be the worst in a show that's already the worst. And but then like they actually expand upon her, and she still has like the I'm this sexy killer character to her throughout most of the show, but she's also like the smartest person there because she has like a certain ability the other demons don't have. And no, it's not the one you think it is. So
that would be the first surprise the story gave me.
Yeah, no, and then they introduced the long-haired Itaden deity who basically just does whatever he wants, and it's just like doesn't really want to train because he's terrified of the mentor. Granted, I'd be terrified of this mentor too if just out of the blue she appeared right behind you and just beat the tar out of you to get better or get good. He's insufferable even though he's like the strongest one there. It's just like, why should I care about these characters? Why should I care or find these demons a threat when they know, like by the point of the show when I finished all the episodes or the ones released so far, they basically lost. They're sending their siblings out so they don't get killed, and the succubus one with the big heavyset demon who is actually the incubator of the demon of fusing humans with demons, and and the nurse, or I guess the candy stripe, they're the smartest ones just to bail, just like, no, let's just get the heck out of here, we're not surviving this. And then they throw in a like, hey, you know what, it wouldn't kill me if I got with a Shota. And it's like, oh god, show, stop.
Really
Yeah.
Really?
No, it's like, oh. And then it's like they played up as a joke that the nurse would be into it too. And it's like, oh my gosh, just give me one character I can like with this show. So it starts as a stupid, edgy BS. And then it just gets incompetent when, like I said, no one is a threat here. The villains aren't a threat, or at least so far they've given me very little reason to find them threats, because the characters, even like the ones training, are strong enough to take down demons. And unfortunately, or what would have been interesting was that the military woman, along with the one with the eye patch and the kid with the short blonde hair of the demons, they get what's the term, they lobotomized them. So, and they try to play it up as funny. There's this little bit of interest of when they're just kind of like, yeah, we're demons, you borked our brains, but we're willing to cooperate with you. Like, there could have been like little interesting pieces. Oh, and the nun, the nun doesn't get any better. She's constantly like, I hope the gods will listen to us and save us. And then they kind of frame it as she enjoys the
Are you fucking kidding me? I'm sorry, I'm standing up and I'm walking away from this right now. Fuck this shit. Fuck this shit. This shit sucks.
Yeah, no, it's
worst
like
show I've ever seen.
No, it's they try to frame it as that, and it's so bad.
Why? That doesn't even go with her characterization from the first episode, all 5 seconds of it. Fucking.
Yeah. And I'm not saying this to get your reactions out of this. I have that internal rage machine inside of me. Like, I'm normally not this kind of person. I don't like saying, I can't believe people like this. I can't believe people like this. If you like it for some weird reason, if you can find some angle of it that we're missing or you disagree with us with, fine. That's fine. But I think it's pretty understandable why people are turned off by this show. I consider it to be the worst Mappa show made. I know a lot of people will try to argue with me that it's the God of High School, but at least the God of High School, the worst thing it ever did was cram 50 episodes of plot into 12 episodes.
was gonna say, God of High School didn't have a Clockwork Orange style rape scene without understanding how that might work, or what makes it work in a Clockwork Orange.
Right. So, yeah, I wish I could say this show gets better, or it's just like something interesting happens. It just doesn't. Yeah. This is for me the morally repugnant worst show of the season, because we can argue that maybe The Detective Is Already Dead is a worse show, or like is considered one of the worst, but I just can't say that that's the case, because it's just incompetently made. It's the X-Arm versus redo of a healer, or the combatants must be dispatched versus Koikimo debate. Do you find the worst show to be more morally repugnant, or do you find the more incompetently made show more repulsive? And for me, at least for here, I think Itaden is the worst of the two, of between this and The Detective Is Already Dead.
I bet if I was as caught up to the show as you are, this might surpass X-Arm as the Brown standard, but X-Arm is still just completely incompetent.
Well, in a lot of ways, this is worse than X-Arm, because it had people who knew what they were doing. They knew what source material they were adapting. X-Arm, for all the bad that it does, for how it just ends on a pathetic fart of an ending that doesn't wrap anything up. It ends on 12 episodes. I assume it needed to have 13, but it ends on 12. Was forced into production by people who never worked in anime, who have never made CGI anime, who never done anime before. That's at least the one excuse you can use for X-Arm as to why it was as bad as it was. It's the fact that Itaden had talent. The animation is fluid. The action can be bombastic and super violent in a childish way. The vibrant color palette gives it a cool pop art look when it's not a bit much.
It's not trying to give me a seizure. Yeah.
Yeah, no. When there are just these tiny little points, and like at first I was thinking like the guy with the glasses was going to betray the Itadens. But no, he was just working with the guy with the long hair, with the Itaden with the long hair, about what to solve the mystery of these demons. Oh, here's the punchline. You know, the ticking time clock, the seal that the mentor just looks over constantly. Doesn't move, doesn't budge. She just constantly sits there to protect the seal.
Mm-hmm.
They freaking spoil the actual results of what happens if the seal is unleashed. Glasses, or at least for now, this is what they say. Glasses and the guy with the long hair, say even if they unsealed the seal, unleashing all the demons are dead.
Oh, Lord.
So even if they thought that they could unseal it, they'd just be getting a bunch of demon corpses.
The Room has a better story than this fucking thing.
Oh. Let's move on. I want to talk about a less frustrating show, but one that's more frustrating in some ways. Itaden is the worst show of the season. I'm sorry. If you like it for some reason, fine. But please understand and respect people who do not find this show interesting. I hate people saying like, well, it's not going to be for everyone. No.
Someone's going to tell me to read the manga now, and I'm like, I know I just told you to read the Duke of Death manga if you like it, but no, I'm not going to.
It's a show that goes by and reminds me like, you know what? Girlfriend, and the Duke of Death and his maid are actually much better shows to give them credit for what they do right, or what they find appealing, even if they still don't fully work. Like,
I will give credit to Girlfriend for being louder than Itaden deities.
At least Girlfriend knows what it wants to be. This show, like Itaden, does not. It wants to be this stupid, edgy, cynical mess. And I know some people say, well, that's the point. You're supposed to look at this from a perspective of like, wow, this world sucks. I've had my fill of that. I've seen Jenna Cyber. I've seen Violence Jack and Angel Cop. We don't need stories like this anymore. But let's move on. Let's just move on. Sorry for the hassle and all of the terribleness I had to spill out for y'all. Let's talk about Spirit Chronicles on Crunchyroll. At least it's a mediocre isekai. This is one that's not as frustrating to talk about. It is, but yeah. It's directed by Osamu Yamasaki. It's co-written by Yamasaki, Megumi Sasano, and Yoshiko Nakamura. And it's produced by TMS Entertainment. It's based off of the light novels and manga by Yuri Kitayama. God, that show. When 20-year-old college student Haruto Amakawa dies in a traffic accident, we'll get to that. He does not expect to wake up in an unfamiliar world in the body of a young boy named Rio. As their memories and personas fuse, Rio realizes that he now also possesses magical powers. He is relieved to find that his burning passion for revenge against his mother's murderers has not subsided, despite his newly changed identity. Not soon after, Rio comes across the kidnapped princess of the Betram Kingdom and saves her without hesitation. To express his gratitude, the king grants him the opportunity to enroll in the Betram Royal Academy. Believing this to be a new chapter in his life, he is excited to study at this prestigious academy. But life here proves to be difficult for him. Yeah, quote unquote, difficult. A slum dweller surrounded by the majestic children of nobles. F this show, man. If Ichiden wasn't there, I would actually argue this would be the worst show of the season. Teresa, what did you think?
I didn't think it was the worst show of the season. It's just the characters are a bit frustrating for sure. I thought the dream sequence, well, it's a dream, but it's also real life, his memories. I thought that was a really amazing way to open up the season and kind of get you into the Ikai, but definitely besides Rio, the characters are lacking in depth. They're very one-minded. These nobles are fucking assholes, and they don't change. So that gets yeah, it gets really repetitive, and like they skip time in a weird way. And I'm like, nope, still a jerk. 5 years later, okay. Can't get over this guy who's better. I'm just like, after a while, isn't he just someone in your class who's better than you? I don't know. I'm just being too logical. I'm sure.
How dare you use logic of isekai power fantasies? No.
But I mean, I'm gripped. I want to know where he came from. That mystery has definitely gotten me hooked. I'm surprised he even went back to say goodbye to his little professor fangirl, Celia. She's a little sad. Again, with the age difference, I was like, thank you for confirming that, because I was very confused who all these little girls who look exactly the same, the princesses and her. I was like, okay, so those two are related because they have the purple hair. Who's this chick? Oh, she's the professor now? That doesn't make sense, but okay. Here we are with the weird ages. It kind of remind me how in Blue Exorcist, his brother is teaching him. And I'm like, they don't have any other teachers? Okay, she must be the best. So I thought that was a little funny, but I definitely think this unsupervised graduation practical, like they're just letting bad guys sneak around there, like get some security. The princess is there. Like, don't let the children just be off on their own. She has been kidnapped in the past. Maybe should take some precautions. Good thing Rio's a good person. Otherwise, she'd have fallen off a cliff. But yeah, I want to know where he came from. I want to know what his special like spirit magic is. So despite the assholes, hopefully he's leaving them behind and they get their comeuppance in a few episodes. I'm in.
Haley, what did you think?
I think the show is really janky looking. Like, it's definitely not animated well. A lot of my notes are about specific animation jank. Like, one of them is people are walking like they're in South Park. Holy shit.
They do.
Also, I think I need to, as well as I do with people introduce Boob first, I need to start keeping tally of background heavyset characters who look like Cartman, because this has another one. And I feel like there's like 45 of these characters in this season. But otherwise, yeah, I'm just not super enthused about this. Like, the lead is an obvious Kirito ripoff, Kirito from Sword Art Online. The ages in this show are all over the place, to the point where my note at the end of episode 3 was just 12 with a lot of question marks. It feels like all these people should be teenagers. I also agree that all of the nobles are complete assholes for no reason, long beyond the time they should still be assholes. Like, I named the lead asshole noble kid Evil McEvilson in my notes because he's just so fucking obvious. I will say that for a isekai, thankfully there's no video game shorthand. The pulling in of his memories from his previous life is really well done. There's things in here that could have been great. I think it's just hampered by the fact that the animation looks really crappy. And the story that we're being given so far is mainly, like a child being bullied for not having money over and over and over again. So it's just not the most compelling. Sorry, the only other thing is I wish we had an age for Celia, because that also is disturbing to me on many levels. Like, I don't know how old this chick is, why she's fangirling over who I thought was a 17-year-old is apparently 12. Like, it's like, is she his age? Is she just sufficiently advanced in magic? Does she look 12? Like, this is where the limitations of anime become a real problem, because everyone either looks 12 or 45, and there's no in between. So you could tell me that that girl is 30, I'd be like, okay, yeah, that's creepy. Or you could tell me that she's 13, and I'd be like, okay, yeah, she's a panty pony dash style teacher. Okay. And that was really bothering me as well. But
I get it.
Otherwise, I think the show's kind of a hot nothing. They had a lot of potential there, didn't really do a whole lot with it. Aside from literally the worst classmates I've seen in many years, probably the worst classmates since the ones in Dear Brother. And how old is Celia, which was a note I had multiple times. Yeah, it's a bog standard isekai. If you're into those things, you'll like it. If you're not into these things, don't watch it. It's not very good.
Okay, Mike, what did you think?
Out of the isekai that we've seen so far, I think this might be, at least setup wise, probably one of the better ones. The bus scene in the beginning is one, for better for worse, something I will never forget, because it's like one minute he's just riding on a bus saying goodbye to his best friend, or like thinking about his best friend, and then 2 seconds later, bus and train.
I cannot believe I forgot to mention that. Holy shit, that was one of the funniest things I've ever seen, and it's horrible. But every time this show has My Hero Academia disease, where they flash back to the same things like way too many times. But every time they showed that bus train crash, I was on the floor laughing. It was the funniest thing. It's horrible, but it's so fucking funny because it's so out of nowhere.
Well, it's so out of nowhere, and it's so extreme to that level. And like, considering how they treat the rich people in this show, it's like we should have probably seen this coming at the beginning with just
and therein lies the problem with this series. It wants to take itself seriously, but too many elements of it are like cartoonishly unsubtle. For example, the classism. These nobles are like the biggest assholes for literally no reason other than you're poor, so we're gonna make your life a living hell. Other than like, I guess like 2 or 3 characters, and they're basically like that family of princesses or whatever. You know, the only 2 people who treat him like an actual human being. I don't think I like a single other person other than Rio. A lot of what I don't like about most of these, like this batch of shows, is characters who are just despicable without accountability or without just the show being a comedy.
Yeah, I hate this show. I think it is one of the worst. And it is because it tries so hard to be dark and broody and adult, but then it doesn't commit to it, or at least it's trying to, but it's very surface level, like brooding and such. And yeah, it is really obnoxious. Just for a lot of the show is obnoxious to me because I watched a few more episodes past the 3 episode mark just to see where the show was going, because there are little moments where it becomes decent, where it's like they start building upon how the world works. They kind of explore the whole my spirit is within another person's body and we're having to share the same space, and that's interesting. That's at least one interesting hook, but it doesn't really want to commit to that, because then it's like, oh, but I gotta be the lead from Sword Art Online. I have to have a harem and such, and I want all the girls to fall in love with me or whatever. And then, yeah, Rio is the only thing driving this show, because the princesses don't do anything. They're all just they're either damsels in distress, or they're just like passive. It's like, well, that sucks that kid keeps getting bullied for some reason. It's like I could absolutely get this kid expelled or killed or whatever, but
I'm just not gonna do anything.
Yeah, I'm just not going to do anything about it. And it's like, oh, you suck. And yeah, the teacher thing it looked like she was like falling for him, and it's like, okay, well, if you're a teacher, that's not okay. And then it does something that it's like, maybe it's because the bar for isekais are so low. When you see the third episode, you're teased with the fact that Rio is leaving and he's going to train, and he has a assassin sent after him. And you find out that the assassin was the little girl on the bus. So
What?
What?
Yeah. You find out that you find out that Rio was not the only one who got isekai'd into this world. And
okay.
yeah, so it's like, wow. Okay, that's kind of interesting. It's taking like that so I'm a spider, so what route with multiple people getting isekai'd at the same time. At one point it's just like, sorry, it's just this part makes me mad. You find out that this animal girl, who's this powerful assassin, was abused and kept imprisoned after he beats her, like wins in a fight, not actually like beats her up or anything like that. Thank God. This show could have done that, but I'm glad it didn't. They take the slave collar off of her, and she's like been so broken, or quote unquote broken, saying like, hey, no, please put this collar back on and everything will be fine. And he's just like, no, toss that thing away. That's garbage and you shouldn't wear that thing. And then, okay, well, now we're going to see what the relationship builds up upon with this. And get ready, because then they go to a beast kingdom and he's treated as their savior. And then we get another time skip. So when he's like an older teenager or young adult, and he has a harem of very young looking girls. It's very much the MT squared, like little sister harem kind of thing. And the assassin, the one who was like actually good at her job, forgets everything and becomes a damsel. So it's just like, this show doesn't want to commit to anything. It just wants to be another vapid power fantasy little sister harem stupid BS.
This show kind of feels like why I called it earlier one of the better isekais that I've seen, but I'm only comparing it to the shows that we've seen since this podcast began. And yet it still sounds like the reason why I'm generally not a fan of isekai.
A lot of isekais just don't do anything different. They keep getting made because it's a popular genre, but they keep forgetting to add something interesting. Or if they do have something interesting, like a few years ago, there was an isekai where this guy and his childhood friend get warped into another world. And you think, oh, well, that would be interesting because, it's usually just the one kid who gets transported. But then it's just like, oh, she just ends up as another girl in the harem. Okay, whatever.
I was gonna say, it's wild to me that all of these kind of boomed from Sword Art Online, because Sword Art Online definitely had like a harem-ish element, but so much of that show was devoted to the existential heartbreak of building a whole life with someone in another world and having that ripped from you. Like, I still vividly remember that first season. And I know a lot of people like to shit on Sword Art Online because of what it became, but that first season is probably one of the best first seasons of anime I've ever seen. Like, full on sobbing at the end of that when they go back to the real world and he's separated from Asuka.
Yeah, Asuka. Yeah.
I'm like, it's one letter off of the Evangelion girl, and I can't remember which is which right now, but Asuka. Yeah. But like, for all of its kind of generic elements, there was something really special about how it upheld the idea of finding someone in an unfamiliar world and not letting go. And so many of these shows just replicated the weird harem-y episodes of that show. It just doesn't make any sense to me. I'm like, make something emotional, make something of this. There's so much you could do, even if you're just blatantly copying the thing that came before you.
This is why I liked the first season, for the most part. It still had its flaws, of how not to summon a demon lord, because they kept the harem element in, and there's definitely a lot of flaws with how it handles it. It was handled in a way that made it enjoyable, because it had a main character who was not like, I'm super confident. No, this guy suffered from crippling social anxiety, and he just BS'd his way into looking confident. He even bought like a pair of fake demon horns to wear on his head to look intimidating. The girls actually like being around him, which you don't get that with a lot of harems, because sometimes harems are built around like, well, I guess this is like the least bad male in this show. I guess I'll be with him. Or just like with the I maxed my level by killing slimes for 300 years. That one's just cute and it's laid back. It's low key. And this is just like an amalgamation of why there needs to be like some slowdown of isekais. Just stop making so many if this is what's going to get made.
The isekai, like the amount of isekai that we've seen in just like this past couple years, the abundance of isekai is basically how most like people who most superhero like dissenters, how they feel about, you know, superhero movies kind of taking over pop culture. Isekai is doing what superhero dissenters feel that genre is doing. I think isekai fatigue is more imminent than superhero fatigue.
I think so too. It's becoming way too much. At least the superhero movies keep a consistent quality about them. And there's always at least something different coming from like DC and such. And Marvel's slowly starting to branch out into being more experimental and creative with their films and shows. The isekai genre, you're lucky if you get like one good one. And I mean like a really good one, which we'll talk about later. But for the most part, they're all vapid and forgettable. Or they take something creepy like the one where a main character gets transported to a isekai world with his mom. And of course, the mom is smoking hot. And I guess you can put together what happens there. And it's just like, stop making, like, just because you can adapt an isekai doesn't mean you should. Because
I really wish they would go to the well of adapting the old isekai stuff that was usually female fronted, stuff like Red River. Let's do another Fushigi Yugi. Like that, those isekais always seem to be more firing on all cylinders and dealing with more than just creating a fantasy harem for their lead. Yeah. And you see it in the Saint's magic powers omnipotent. Like she has the handsome prince or the handsome lead of the guard that she falls for, but it's never really entirely about her falling in love with everybody in her eyesight.
It's not about the harem element. It's about her making a world a better place through what would normally be behind the scenes work. And that's what made it so compelling. And yeah, so Spirit Chronicles just blows to me. Like and I can't believe it took me 3 episodes to realize this guy's just a Kirito knockoff. They unashamedly give him the same Sword Art Online outfit later on. It's ugh. But I guess we got to keep talking about isekais because they're never leaving. So let's talk about the most boring one. How a realist hero rebuilds a kingdom. Or, as I say, how not to have fun in an isekai. Or how to take a comedic idea and ruin it. Okay, so this is based off of the novels and manga by Doji Yomaru, and it's directed by Takashi Watanabe, co-written by Go Zappa and Hiroshi Onogi, and produced by JC Staff. Yeah, so these names disappeared again all over the place. After the death of his grandfather, 19-year-old Kazuya Soma, an aspiring civil servant, is left all alone with no one to call family. Out of the blue, he is transported to the Elfrinden Kingdom, a small alien country in another world, to be a hero. An ongoing war with the demon army has put the entire world in peril, and Kazuya was summoned to aid in the conflict as an offering from Elfrieden to its allies. Dissatisfied with being used as tribute, Kazuya decides to help the kingdom revamp its declining economy, not by the way of adventuring or war, but through administrative reform. Bureaucracy. Abruptly declared the king of Elfrindheim and betrothed to the princess, the realist hero Kazuya sets out to assemble a group of talented citizens who will assist him in his bureaucratic battles to get the kingdom back on its feet. So we just talked about how most isekai are boring garbage. This one, I'm more mad about this one because it had an interesting hook to it. Instead of being like a power fantasy hero, our main character is just like, show me your finances and I will try to make something work. And that's what I was kind of hooked about it. And then I realized I mistook this anime for another one that's coming out in winter. So instead of that one, to be clear, what I'm talking about is The Genius Prince's Guide to Raising a Nation Out of Debt. That's the one that's coming out in winter 2022. But for here, we're stuck with, we're going to do a bunch of paperwork. We're not going to fight anything. This is how it's going to go. They took the realist hero angle way too seriously, and I was bored. Teresa, what did you think?
Literally, I fell asleep on it. And I was like, did I just wake up and he's talking about economics and supply and like, is this really the English? Like, I was like, are these subtitles translated properly? And I just couldn't believe that is like the plot. Also, he became king in like 5 minutes. And he doesn't seem particularly smart. So I was just like, you just gave up your kingdom and your daughter. For anyone who has a brain, oh my god. Like I was just like, this is, we just skipped to this. The second episode, I was like, okay, they're trying to develop some characters around here. I don't hate the princess that he's betrothed to, but I want her to go kick some ass. And like literally, like they're showing maps, they're talking about getting crops. I was like, I don't need crop tips in my anime. I just literally give me a farm anime at that point. Back to the girl like in that race show where she's like talking about potatoes. Like I would take that over the show because the show is so
I absolutely miss battle athletes.
And I was like, this is, and then like I was like, this is the end of episode 3 and literally nothing has happened. Like, show me some demons, show me something. It was just like the most boring thing of my life. And I sillily watched that first of everything this season. So everything has gone up from here, which is good. Except I skipped Eden, so that probably would have been a low, but I saved myself.
No, I'm glad. No, you didn't need to watch Eden. After like after I watched all the episodes, I was just like, oh geez, Willikers, we just sorry.
I literally stopped. So, but Realist got all 3, and what a waste of time.
It's like I felt like this was supposed to be funnier, maybe. Like I feel like that's the joke. It's like instead of being this power fantasy adventure, it's a guy doing paperwork, and they don't play up any of that, or at least not to the degree that it should. I think the one joke I laughed at intentionally was the fact that his first magic spell was to make pins work on their own, or the feather pins work on their own, so he could get more paperwork done. That was like the one solid joke I think they got out of that. And then there's just nothing. And then they bring in all these other people, and you kind of get that the siren, who thankfully isn't introduced boob at first, but then they kind of like, oh hey, she's got boobs, and it's like, okay. And they do that angle that girlfriend does, where it's just like the main girl's just like, I hate that she has bigger boobs than mine. And it's like, okay, girls aren't like that. As far as I know, they aren't. That seems like a guy thing to write about.
I want Kenji from the dungeon here. I need the lead to have like some kind of character. He just literally is so boring and like just nothing. It's not good or bad. He's just literally like milquetoast.
There's nothing interesting about this guy. Everyone else is a lot more interesting, but even then, when I say a lot, they're basically 1% more interesting than toast. And because you think you kind of have like the archetypes here. You have like this. Well, first of all, it does that fantasy thing I hate where it crosses the fashion sense of like, okay, so is this a European fantasy thing? No, it's got Japanese attire and such. And it's like, okay, that's distracting to me. It's like in that Peach Boy Riverside anime where the bunny girl's wearing a school uniform. But can we get to like the best name of any character in this show? Poncho Panna Cotta.
I can't believe that's actually real.
I know.
That's a 4Kids dubbed name. What the heck is a real character named Poncho Panna Cotta? And of course, he's the one to handle the cuisine and food.
I would say he's the only overweight character. Like, it's just shit all the way down.
Yeah. And then you got the smart guy with the black hair, and he's like, I'd like to know about your military strategies. And then they just kind of said, like, and afterwards they became best friends, and he became the military guy. And then they cut back to here, and it's like, okay, that was whiplash inducing. Haley, what did you think?
This is not good. The thing is, the concept of this theoretically is something I would be very into.
Me
The
too.
idea of an auditor being transported to another world and then auditing a far off time and places books. Like, there's a lot of room for that to be interesting. This is not interesting. And I think Teresa touched on it by saying that our lead is literally just a wet blanket. He is so uninteresting. He has no character traits, I think, besides numbers. I also think that this show does a kind of uncomfortable thing that comes up in certain isekai every once in a while, where character comes from a modern world and is telling these quote unquote backwards civilizations very basic shit that's existed for many years, and everyone treating it like it's, the word of God. Like, in this case, there's a couple of instances of it. The second episode, where he's telling the princess, you shouldn't just make one crop because then it's subject to the wills of the market. It's like, yeah, people have been doing that since like the 800s BC. Like, this isn't a thing that should need to be taught to these people. It feels extremely condescending. And then the end of episode 3, where I think he says the same thing to the wolf girl. He's like, well, if you cut down some of your trees and burn.
It was the elf, the
elf
elf
girl. Okay.
Yeah.
It's the same kind of thing where it's like these kinds of reactions to the world have existed for thousands of years.
Right.
Like, some 12-year-old from Japan is not going to be teaching them this shit. And it feels really condescending and gross when he does. I'm sure there's a word for like that kind of feeling, but it was really uncomfortable, I will say, because he's not telling them anything revolutionary. It's not like he's coming out of PwC and being like, if you set up a Sarbanes-Oxley audit, you'll be able to catch risk variances. He's not doing that. He's telling them basically, hey, dum-dums, maybe make 2 different kinds of crop. Like, that shit's existed for years. So it made a lot of the show uncomfortable, because it's not like this kid is smart. So what Teresa was saying, he's not smart. It's just the narrative is trying to make us think he's smart by saying, hey, look, Buster knows agrarian agriculture from the 1400s.
Yep.
Excuse me. I will also say it is ridiculous that his phone is still working by the end of episode 3.
Thank you. I was wondering how the hell that was working.
Absolutely distracting. He pulls out his phone so that Juna, the boob girl, can sing a song. She sings worse than all of the characters in Uramichi Onisan, I have to say. And her big skill is singing. It's kind of like, come on, anime. If you're this anime already looks like trash. It's terribly animated. At least hire a professional singer to be your big, like, singing star. But I was laughing, saying, like, please let him make her sing AKB48, make her sing a BTS song, make her sing, like, Billie Eilish, make her go out there and go, I'm the bad guy. But no, she's saying some weird ballad thing. No, like, anywhere where this show could have been fun, it becomes boring. And that's really the takeaway from it. It's boring and vaguely condescending as a show. There was one thing I thought was funny, and there was a Yu-Gi-Oh gag at the end of episode 1 where he kind of likens what he's doing to a game of Yu-Gi-Oh. And I forgot about that. That is a weird pull, but I like it. But that was the end of the funniness. Like, thought at episode 1, I was like, this has some potential. Squandered it immediately. I also had a note on here that was Noodle Horse, and I'm not sure what that means, but I'm guessing the horse was animated really poorly, because this and Spirit Chronicles are the worst looking shows of the season. Like, just really bad animation, like slideshows almost. But yeah, this show's not great. Let's wait for the one that comes in the winter. That is kind of covering the same concept. Hopefully it'll be better.
Well, at least that one, the premise is that he's just like, I don't want to run this kingdom. I just want to bankrupt it so I can get the hell out of here. And
So it's the opposite of this then.
yeah, at least that's what I remember reading about it. So at least to me, that's like way more funny and interesting. And it seems like they're going to lean on that. Here, it's just like, wouldn't it have been really funny if they gave the girl whose one thing to do is to sing like a rap song or something? Just like, have fun with this. This is like, oh, so this is what I called it. I called it the anime made for those smarmy jerks and idiots who made those BuzzFeed articles that basically ignited the Disney live action remake train. It's for those people. It's those people who need an explanation for everything, even when it's a fairy tale, even when it's fantasy centric. It's just like the most boring person wants to know everything, even like they don't have an imagination. This is that show. It's for those who don't have an imagination. It's so frustrating. Mike, what did you think?
So in my notes, I compared this to what everyone back in 99 complained about in Star Wars The Phantom Menace, where too much of the focus was on like the politics and the trade disputes and all that nonsense. This is basically an entire anime of just that. And for some reason, Wikipedia calls this a fantasy comedy, but comedy is supposed to have jokes. And other than the pen, like the magic pens, and for whatever reason, Kazuya's phone working in this land, it's not funny. Kazuya has no personality, and it kind of has the same problem as Cheap Pharmacists, where the cadence kind of has this like pseudo educational rhythm to it, kind of like the Sword in the Stone, but you're not learning anything that you don't already know. And the framing of Kazuya is like he's smart because he's like a civil servant or whatever, but like you pointed out, the things that he's saying are extremely basic, and these people would have known this by now, depending on what era this is supposed to be taking place in.
They should have known, or else they're the most rock stupid country in like all of anime this season.
Right. If this was funnier, or if Kazuya had more of a personality, then this would have a leg to stand on. Otherwise, this is kind of like probably one of the most obvious examples of they just adapted a light novel, but without like translating the pace to be, a serialized anime. It's just like, I don't know, the tone is just all over the place with this one. I don't think it really even knows what it wants to be, or it does, it's just not working.
It's just really boring. That's what it is. But let's move on, because there's nothing to talk about. It's just boring. It's boring. And I can understand if some people find this appealing. I'm sure this would be a kind of like Cheat Pharmacist. It would make for a pseudo interesting indie game. But yeah, I just couldn't get into it. So let's talk about Battle Game in 5 Seconds After Meeting. These titles. I know I keep saying that, but man. Another Battle Royale. It's a day that ends in Y. It's based off of the manga by Saizo Harawata, and the anime is directed by Meigo Naito and Nobuyushi Arai, and it's produced by Synergy SP. It was just a usual morning. Akira Shiroyanagi, a high schooler who loves games and konpeito, Japanese sweets, has suddenly been dragged into a battlefield by a mysterious girl who calls herself Mion. The participants are told that they are erased from the family register, involved in an experiment, and gained certain powers. Akira is determined to win the game with his newfound powers and destroy the organization. Armed with a power no one expects and his brain skill, the new period of intelligent battle begins. So, Haley, what did you think?
This show is, it's something. I'll say. I think, like, after episode 1, I thought this show was one of the worst. But part of the problem with this show is that everyone is more interesting than our lead. Our lead is the kind of douchebag who would think that he could do better than Light in Death Note. He's just really unpleasant in that kind of like, life is a game. I'm so much smarter than all of my peers. I can figure this out instantly. And that's not a fun character to watch unless the stakes are there. This death game doesn't do a great job of introducing any sort of stakes. Like, this is a clear Danganronpa ripoff without anything that made Danganronpa interesting. Like, part of what made Danganronpa interesting was that everyone was kind of left to their own devices, and you saw what pushed people to kill. Like, they weren't being forced to do anything. There's points in the game where you can sit there just talking with some weirdo with white hair on the beach for like 9 hours. But this, it's a lot of ideas, some of which are good, some of which are bad, but like all together, they just don't make a whole lot of sense. This anime looks like a Go Hands anime. I thought it was a Go Hands anime, but then I realized there was no brother-sister incest, so it couldn't be a Go Hands anime. But it's the least terrible, but episode 2 focuses on Yuri, a female lead who has a really rough life with an abusive mother and who is making very selfish decisions that leave her, Yuri, to care for a young girl who is the daughter of one of her mother's new boyfriends, who has clearly also been through abuse. And weirdly, it's shown very sensitively. It's a plot that's done very well. It's very powerful and in its kind of quiet reveal of what's going on. Yuri also deals with a stalker who's handled completely with anger and with condemnation. And, you think, hey, maybe this show will be good. And then Yuri in her death battle has to fight a pedophile who murders teens to get off. And I'm like, okay, never mind. Fuck this show. This show sucks. And then it throws us for episode 3 straight back into I'm smarter than everyone's head. I don't really know what was going on in the writing room for this show, because I feel like there's a lot of ideas and a lot of them are confused. A lot of them are muddled. Like, this is a show where everyone's given superpowers, and our lead has a superpower of whatever ability your opponent thinks you have, which is objectively cool. And then we meet a guy in episode 3 whose ability is I can turn a button into a rope. And I'm just like, the fuck is going on here? It's like one person is firing on all cylinders. The rest of them are just kind of like, whatever, we read the assignment. And one dude is straight up plagiarizing from Danganronpa. Like the end bits with the theater where Mion and the Chinese Kipao wearing girl are talking. That's just straight ripped from Super Danganronpa 2. Yeah. That, like, those are the interstitials with Monomi and Monokuma. This show's not very good. If you've graduated college, you will probably figure out where this show is going most episodes. Like, they want to build up that Rin's power is super unique or whatever, and I'm like, no, she's just throwing her sweat, right? Her sweat, it turns into daggers. It's her sweat. Like, that's obvious. They showed it to you. But
at least it's that. I was kind of assuming the worst with her or something like that, or something wildly more sexist.
Yeah, no, I think it is the sweat, because they make a point of showing her sweat a lot, and I was like, okay, is it sweat? And I googled it, and yeah, she can turn her sweat into daggers. This is also, like, there's a lot of anime that we're talking about today that are animated really stupidly or poorly, and this is one of them. The first episode is the worst by far, which is interesting. You expect the budget to be high and then go down, but the first episode looks the worst, and it kind of starts looking better after each episode.
Why did Ichirin get the massive budget or the resources to make it look as good as it did with a reprehensible story? And why does Battle Game in 5 Seconds look like a TMS Entertainment or a Studio Dean show? Like,
I still think this is a Go Hands show, not created by Go Hands. Like, it has all the hallmarks except for the incest. It's a very messy show. I can see people enjoying certain aspects of it. Like, I just mentioned Rin, but Rin is actually a better villain than the cat girl. And the cat girl is obnoxious as hell. Like, she adds nothing to the story. She's trying, she's, again, the person who is sitting there, like, plagiarizing Danganronpa. She wants to be Monokuma, but has none of the charm of Monokuma, and is also a human, and is also, like, somehow implicated in the experimentation in this area. It's like, she's just too confused as a character. It's not like hey, look, this weird bear born of chaos is now making us kill each other, but we're not going to listen to him. She just doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Right.
And is quirky for quirkiness' sake. The only other note I have is that at some point, the pedophile in episode 2 ends up naked, and there's a shot where he literally has no genitalia. And I don't know if that's an edit or just the way I watched it on Crunchyroll, but I was sitting there thinking of Pop Star when Andy Samberg is tucking, and then his set blows up and you see him just naked, but he's tucked, so you don't see a penis. And
yeah, I forgot about that.
And Hunter the Hungry is like, okay, yo, but where was your dick, man? And that's all I could think of. Like, this show isn't worth putting a whole lot of thought into. It's stupid. It's very stupid. It doesn't really do what it sets out to do. It's a death battle. If you like those things, maybe you'll enjoy this, but the lead's insufferable. I would just watch episode 2 and move on with my life.
Mike, what did you think?
Just pulling up my notes for this one just to see what I said. I said, if this is your first Battle Royale anime and you were a 14-year-old weeb in 2007, then yeah, you'd be all over this. But I am turning 29 next month, and you know, I've been around anime for enough time to recognize that nah, this is just, I couldn't with this. It has all like the usual battle anime tropes. The main character is just kind of too up his own ass with the whole life is a game and I'm the puzzle master, whatever. I don't really have a whole lot to say that hasn't been said already. I might keep watching and probably check out the dub to see like if there's something interesting that happens after the 3rd episode. But where it is right now, it just kind of seems like been there, done that. Although I gotta say, the OP is great, as are a lot of the OPs have been this season. And I guess I'm sort of interested in the kind of mystery behind like the abilities of each fighter, like where the abilities come from, how come they're so like easily manipulated, I guess. But like that's just one element of the show that's just kind of par for the course.
No, this is just another battle royale. It's like if you've seen one, you've seen them all. The one hook is that the main, like there's a certain strategy to the main character's power. He has to convince the other person what his power is going to be. And you find out through some of the other episodes, it depends and is varied by person to person. So if he's encountered someone already, he's going to have the arm cannon weapon, and if he meets someone new, he'll either convince him that he also has the arm cannon because he saw him use it, or something else is going to happen, which I think that's at least an interesting hook. And at least he's not a whimpering sad sack where he's like, wham, violence, I don't want to be here, I can't believe I'm here. And then it takes like 50 episodes before he's just like, don't worry, I will save the day. Here he's a sociopath, and he's willing to basically gaslight everyone into like, don't worry, I'm not going to kill you if I don't have to. It's like, I guess, pick your poison. Do you want a whiny, petulant child for a main character, or a guy who's basically on the teetering edge of being like a murderer? Honestly, the one thing that was interesting to look up about this show was the voice cast, or at least the Japanese voice cast. Because Mion, our wannabe, what's the bear's name in Danganronpa?
Monokuma.
Yeah, Monokuma. Mion is voiced by Mayumi Shitani, who was Haruko from FLCL. You can really tell it's her because it's like the same mannerisms. And the guy who plays the one who's I can turn wood into swords is voiced by Kazuya Nakai, and he's Zoro's Japanese voice actor in One Piece.
I can kind of hear that.
You can absolutely hear it. And now they don't get the same voice actors for the English dub. They have different people, but really that's it. It's animated badly. It's every other bad battle royale that you've seen. And I know there's like a charm and appeal to just watching dumb violence with cool powers. I'm just not into that. And apparently this show hates Lupin the Third because the one who's like, I can turn buttons into rope looks exactly like Lupin. It's basically Lupin. And they give him a stupid power because he's going to be the one who's killed because he has a bad case of I'm not the main character itis.
Oof. Ouch.
There is one point where you think the animation is going to get better. It doesn't. And they introduce more CGI elements, and the CGI is awful. So, and it does fall back into that. There's going to be that one bad guy who's like, strength and might makes right. The weak should serve the strong, and what have you. So it's like, you know what's going there. Yuri is like the only interesting character in this show. I agree. I think she's the best part. But yeah, that's really it. So let's just continue on to D-Side Trauma Ray. Good luck saying that 5 times fast. The animation. Another mobile game adaptation. So it's based off of the game by Sumzap and Dracom. It's directed by Yoshikazu Kon, written by Hiroshi Onogi, and produced by Zanzigen. When he was little, Ryuhei Oda witnessed the death of his caring older brother, along with a mysterious mark that was left near his body. Now a second-year high school student, the outgoing and impulsive young boy spends his days doing what he loves most: kickboxing. One night on his way home, a peculiar creature bites Ryuhei's leg and causes him to have a strange dream filled with odd entities when he is attacked the next day by the same creatures in the real world. Jessica Claiborne and Aruto Fushibe comes to his rescue, claiming that Ryuhei is their new recruit. Faced with an imminent threat, Jessica urges a confused Ryuhei to transform into I'm not kidding, a knocker up, a person with the ability to confront the monsters hailing from the dreamscape. Using his talent for kickboxing to his advantage, Ryuhei awakens his powers to save the city, only to come across a familiar mark. A mark that he could never forget. Haley, what did you think of this show?
I actually liked this show a lot more than I was expecting to, and that most people have, it seems like. I'm not going to pretend it's doing anything super unique. It's not. It's a battle of the week kind of shonen show with a central mystery about some big conspiracy, which is par for the course for most of these kinds of games. But for a mobile adaptation, like, this is surprisingly really solid. I think the CG is probably some of the most impressive I've seen, or the most impressive I've seen since we started doing these reviews. Like, I don't watch B-Stars, and I haven't seen Land of the Lustrous in years. And I'm sure those two look better than this, but this is a very close third in terms of just really nice looking CG animation with a lot of personality and verve and really just well done movement and sense of flow and timing. Like, a lot of times I was watching the show going, damn, this is a weekly show that looks like this. Like, it was extremely impressive to me. I also really like the characters. I know they're kind of stock character archetypes. Our lead is just kind of like the dorky Genki guy who's popular and isn't really quite sure what's going on. He's got a dark secret in that he saw his brother die, and his brother died with this weird symbol next to him, and that's haunted him. And now that he is a knocker up, and yes, that's stupid. I still like this show, though. It's a stupid terminology, but I think it's great. As a knocker up, he's seeing that symbol and going, I can get to the bottom of my brother's death. But I think a lot of these stock types are more appealing now that we're dealing with all of these isekai potato types who just have no personality and are just meant to be self-insert fantasy archetypes. So to see a lead who's got some personality, some drive, he interacts well with the people around him. He's got identifiable motivations. I'm like, okay, I like this guy a lot. And I think the female leads, aside from their very odd costuming choices, are pretty great too. I think Reina is very sweet. She's the sweet, popular girl who wants to make everyone feel included, and that bites her in the ass in episode 3, but she doesn't feel the need to fall to cynicism over it. Very empathetic, very kind-hearted, and also the mystery of why she can keep seeing all of these mystical things was interesting until that episode 3. I really felt for Ibisaki in episode 2. I think a weird through line going through a lot of the shows this season is dealing frankly with the consequences of abuse. And I think Ibisaki's story deals with it very well. Her father is extremely abusive towards her mother, and she almost falls to darkness just trying to get him to stop, and it's handled very well. It's upsetting, but it's handled very well, and I'd say a little better than Kageki Shoujo, where it's not just dumping all of that on you at the same time. There's one scene, it's impactful, and then the rest of it is about what Ibuzaki is doing to try and resolve it, and how she fights against the easy way out of revenge to become something more positive in the end, to kind of break the cycle of abuse that's permeated her life. I know a lot of this can read as a lot of the character archetypes and the way this is set up can read as a bit generic, but I really enjoyed this. Like, this was a nice breather, pool of clear water in the middle of a bunch of dumb isekai itaden nonsense shit for me. So I was really pleasantly surprised by this.
Awesome. Mike, what did you think?
So I don't rate anime the same way I rate movies, but if I were to apply my letterbox rating system to this one, this would be like the perfect 4 out of 5, where everything I like about it, you know, the characters, the setting, like the look of the knock her up. I'm sorry. That name is stupid, but I digress. Like the cool stuff in these sort of like Monster of the Week shonen anime, that's all great. I loved all of that. Like the story itself, though, could have used a bit more fine tuning. Well, I do think like episode 2, that kind of deals more directly with domestic abuse. Like that's some pretty heavy stuff. And sometimes I kind of felt that like rubbing up against like the cool action in the show. And the action really is some of the best I've seen using like CG animation. On the technical side of things, this is almost like the complete opposite of X-Arm, where the studio behind D-Side, they knew exactly what they were doing. I should have guessed based on the title that, oh, yeah, this is an extension of a video game franchise. Even like the plot structure of each episode kind of feels video game-esque. So that's not a bad thing, because video games and anime, that like those fan bases cross over all the time. But if you ask me simply, do I recommend this? Yes, because it's not going to be like best anime of the year or anything, but it gives you exactly what you want from the genre.
Interesting. I'm kind of on the more negative side of this, not because of the action or the animation. I think it's just how they handle some parts of the story of like the darker adult moments and such. Like I think it could have been better, because like we've said, what is so good about this show is the CGI animation. It's great. It looks amazing. The characters are actually expressive. They actually know how to move like anime characters. And whoever is on like the fight scene organizer for this show really knows how to implement fight scenes, because they're great. And they're a lot of fun. They have a lot of energy to them, and they're taking advantage of like this weird persona like world of theirs. It's great. I love the CGI for this show. I'm just not a huge fan of the story. Like I don't care for the story, and the knock her up thing is just like, you couldn't have found an entirely different thing, like phrase or something. Just really nothing. Okay. And I guess it's just like, but then like my more negative sides kind of get tampered down by like, oh wait, this young girl character has a machine gun that has like the Statue of Liberty motif on the back of it. So what am I complaining about? It's fun. I guess it's just like the CGI in action carried everything else, but that's just me.
Perfectly okay for a show to basically just deliver the goods.
Yeah, I guess to me, it's like, if you're going to tackle this stuff, I want you to be very careful with it. And I can understand why some people are like, okay, well, that solution in the second episode is far too efficient for what would actually happen. But
I think I see what you mean about that.
Yeah. It's just like, this 15-second clip is going to end your entire career, Dad. Anyway, I'm fully a fan of it, but I understand why y'all enjoyed it. And maybe I was just too grumpy about it. So let's move on to the final show. Thank goodness, the final show. Tsukimichi, moonlit fantasy. It's an isekai, but it's the best dang isekai in a while. It's based off of the manga and novels by Kaye Izumi, and the anime is directed by Shinji Ishihara, written by Kenta Ihara, and produced by C2C. As part of a mysterious contract agreed upon by a goddess and his parents years ago, Makoto Misumi finds himself sent to another world to meet the goddess and become the hero. However, the deity deems Makoto to be hideous, refusing to even lay eyes upon him and revokes his heroic title, disdainfully giving him the ability to understand all languages except the human language as compensation. The goddess drives Makoto off to the farthest edges of the wasteland, far from human civilization. Due to the disparity between Earth and this new world, Makoto's inherent physical and magical capabilities awaken, making him extremely powerful. He meets various demi-humans and mythical beings who all end up being captivated with his characteristics and join Makoto in building a new community where all of them can peacefully coexist. Nevertheless, despite this success, Makoto still yearns to meet fellow humans. In a world where the goddess herself has barred him from interacting with his kind, it is up to Makoto and his companions to fulfill his desire, and perhaps reform society along the way. This show was great. Oh my goodness. I think I haven't felt this happy about a show this season since Aquatope and Uramichi Oni-san. Teresa, what did you think?
It was okay. Wouldn't say my favorite, but definitely interesting. Hooked and invested on the plot. Want to see more, but definitely middle of the road for me.
Michael, what did you think?
So remember what I said earlier about how the best isekai are the ones that put a spin on the usual formula? That's exactly Moonlight Fantasy did. It's not as like unhinged as Konosuba. It's not as like darkly satirical as Dungeon of Black Company, but it has its own unique charm. The characters are all wonderful. The joke that our main character is so ugly that he was cast out to like the Outer Rim is just kind of hilarious because, you know, as far as like these kind of shonen protagonists go, he looks fine, but it's because everyone in this fantasy world is like 11 out of 10s that he just kind of like pales in comparison. But then in that episode, it's revealed like, oh, so he's the son of a couple who comes from this world. It's a weird like inverted subversion of the usual isekai. There's so many little things that I love about the series, even just the fact that like his harem can't avoid all the tropes, like the dragon and the spider turn into, you know, his harem. That also leads to a lot of great comedic opportunities. I don't know, this one will be in my top 5.
Awesome. Haley, what did you think?
I think this is pretty adorable, slight but adorable. This has really strong Tenchi Muyo energy, and I'm not saying that just because the dragon lead looks like Ryoko. I appreciate that this series is pretty well aware that the isekai tropes are pretty well worn at this point. So it mixes it up in an interesting way. It gives us the internal world of the dragon lady so that a new world can be built by our lead in this and to actually help other people. I think the mystery surrounding who his parents actually were and why they made this decision and why they sacrificed their son is an interesting mystery to keep in the back of the mind, because they do it in a way that doesn't make you hate the parents, which is always good. You know, like this premise could be so mean-spirited and so gross if it was done in the improper way, but they walk a really nice line of being like, why did his parents give him up? The goddess thinks he's ugly as sin. So the goddess is obviously just an asshole. But like, what is going on with his parents? What did they do? Where did they come from? What have they succeeded at? Like, it does a good job of making us wonder about them instead of just writing them off immediately as complete garbage. I like his harem. His harem's ridiculous, but his harem is age appropriate. And when he gives his harem names, he actually explains like, this is why I gave you this name, this means this where I come from. And they're like, oh, that's really thoughtful. And I agreed. I was like, wow, he's actually thinking this through, even though he probably doesn't want to date a humanoid spider or a dragon lady who is using him as basically her personal Netflix to watch wuxia and J-dramas and period pieces. Like he's still like, I like these people, even if they piss me off. Let me give them decent names and let me not lord over them my genius. Like everything I wanted the lead of Realist Hero to be was how the lead of Tsukimichi is. I also appreciate that there is actual world building being done here. It's not just they threw him into a fantasy kitchen sink and expected you to pick up on details from it because you've seen 1,000 shows like this. Like he keeps thinking that he needs to apply video game logic, even though the world is not applying video game logic to him, which I think is a great gag. Like when he's like, what is my level? I bet it's amazing. And then the pig girl just comes up with a little scroll. She's like, touch this and it'll tell you your level. It was very, very funny to me. That's not just like, oh, it's not a screen that you're going to look at. It's a thing he has to interact with. And they do a couple of gags like that are pretty nice. Like, I don't think this will make my favorite of this season, but it's adorable. It's well done in this season with a lot of dreck. It's inoffensive enough to enjoy just on in the background.
Yeah, I guess like if this was released like during the spring or winter season, would it have been more middle of the road, or would it still stand out? Because, like to me, I was looking for a good fantasy comedy this season and it was kind of hard to find them. And then I find this one and it's like, oh my gosh, I have my next Tao Teba Last Dungeon here. Even though they're not, Tao Teba is not the, it's not an isekai, but it's a comedy fantasy show. And it is very, well, let's get this out of the way. Yes, it has a very similar premise and execution in the vein of That Time I Was Reincarnated as a Slime. I understand the comparisons. But if we want to be pedantic about it, Moonlit Fantasy's novel and manga came out first. So, yeah. Because that's what happens in Reincarnated as a Slime. The main character makes contracts with super powerful beings. And like we've said, in Moonlit Fantasy, it's like, yes, I have this powerful dragon girl. But they don't... It's interesting because maybe it's just because the bar is so low for isekais. It's interesting to see them not be so horny for one another. He finds them the most obnoxious human characters around, and how the dragon girl's just like, I need to look at your memories again. Why? Because I'm looking for samurai stuff. No more dramas. Or just and yes, the spider girl's just like I get to be close to him. He's amazing. I can't wait. But she's like, kind of on the verge of just wanting to kill him at points. Mm-hmm. And it's just like this great interesting dynamic between everyone. And maybe it is just because everything was just so bad this season that the execution of the characters in Moonlit Fantasy are just so charming. It has good action. It has a really good opening theme song. I downloaded the song recently and I just love listening to it. And then we get to something like episode 4, which encapsulates the best comedy of the show so far, because they interact with the guy who is the highest level guild member, but of course he thinks I can beat you two ladies, why don't you just join my group? And then they just actually beat him to a tar, no problem. And then they're just like, who do you think Master's going to be more impressed with, me or you? And then they get into a competition by wrecking the village that they're in, because they're saying see, Master will like me more because I did more damage. And at the end of it, he's like, okay, listen, Mio, the spider girl, I need you to spin me some web. Ties the two of them together, and you think it's going to be some kind of dumb fan servicey moment, but it's not. He ties the string around them, puts the string to an arrow, and it's just you two have caused so much damage. I am so irritated with you right now. I need some time away from you. And just launches them like their Team Rocket into the sky. to like back to the little misty hidden kingdom that they make that they're making. And
that scene was so good.
it was really good. And the show doesn't really delve into fan service that much. Like, I think that was what was so shocking about it so far.
Yeah, it keeps things surprisingly clean when they could have easily gone squickier with this.
Well, it's like, especially when you're introduced to Tomoe, like with the revealing cleavage and such, it's like, oh boy, here we go. But it's never like a point. Yeah, it's never the point. And I like that. And then it's just like they keep introducing these characters that are going to be part of his band of party members as they go adventuring. But it never feels like a harem. Because you get like a dwarf girl, an elf girl, this alchemist guy, and these two women. Like one of them looks like his childhood friends or school friends. And it's just refreshing. I think that's the one thing. I guess that's how I would sum up Moonlit Fantasy. It's refreshing. It shouldn't be, but it is. And maybe that is just because so many bad isekais came out this season. But with that, we are done. I'm glad to be done with this season. Honestly, this was the most frustrating one to watch. The others may have had more anime to talk about, but there was a lot more good to talk about.
Didn't you feel the same way about this last year, even though there were only like 10 anime because everything was pushed back?
Well, at least with the summer 2020 anime season, there were only 10 shows. So there was like a very discrete line of quality between the decent and the crap. Here, it's just like there was just so much. And even the good stuff was flawed.
Yeah.
And really, it was just like, I guess I would have rather either had less anime this season. And I mean, that's just a thing in general with anime that I'm just kind of slowly realizing, or not slowly, I'm just realizing, just constantly reminding myself, there's too much anime. There's just too much. Haley, what's your catchphrase?
Too much goddamn anime.
Yeah.
we need to make a t-shirt with that as a slogan.
Me, every season, I'm just like, oh, I gotta work my work schedule and my life around 45 anime. Cool. Sounds good.
Yeah. No, there's just too much, and they're expecting everything to catch on when that's not going to happen. I can see some of these doing way more than others, but there's just no way anyone's going to grasp all of these shows or feel something for all of them. It's not even like a Netflix dump thing, because at least Netflix gives you all the episodes. This is just, you're giving us a bunch of shows and you're just hoping that we stick through it till the end of the 12 episode run.
Yeah. And they must know that they're not going to renew them. Like,
Oh, that's the worst. Like you find that diamond in the rough, something like Odd Taxi. It's like, because it's something that you love, you expect more people to catch on. But then it's like, oh, wait, this is not doing so well because there are 50 other fucking shows. Well, oh well.
Yeah, it's just disheartening because I love anime, and I love when we get stuff like Uramichi Oni-san and Moonlit Fantasy, or just something that's fun and different from the US animation scene. But then there's just so much, and all the negative aspects of the anime industry just pile up. It's stressful at points. Let's talk about our top 5 of the overall season, because we're done. No more.
Of the season. This is gonna be tricky, but I think I've got one prepared, and I'm not gonna put these in any particular order. I think you got to put Life Lessons with Uramichi Ono-san in there. The Aquatope of On White Sand. Sunny Boy, I'm gonna try to finish that before the season ends to really solidify my thoughts on that. But I remember our conversation last time being a very rich and satisfying discussion that I want to keep going with that. So let's see, we got Life Lessons, Aquatope. The more I think about Remain, the more I start to warm up to it. And then from part 2, definitely Moonlit Chronicles, and definitely the Dungeon of Black Company. That sounds like my top 5.
Alrighty. Haley, what do you choose?
So I'll go with the same top 3 I went with last time, which was Aquatope, Uramichi Oni-san, and Sunny Boy. I think after that, I go with D-Side Trauma Ray because I just really enjoyed that for some reason. I don't know why. I loved it. And then probably Tsukimichi Moonlit Fantasy with a alternate of the Duke of Death and His Maid because I love that universe, but I'm probably just going to keep reading the manga instead of watching the anime.
An honorable mention would be Remake Our Life. The first episode and episode 3, I think, are two of my favorite episodes of that show. And something about the premise just really clicked with me.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Teresa, what do you think? What are your top 5?
It's gonna mostly be part 1 for me. I really like Remain. I really like Aquatope. I really like the play one.
Yeah, Kageki Shoujo. Yeah.
Yeah. After that, I would have to go with Urumachi Omisan, and then see all the other ones have something problematic about them. But I'd probably go with Bonitas, even though it's problematic. But that would be my 5th.
That's like the one problem I have with trying to make a top 5 is that like, well, I like this one, but it has that thing. Well, I guess that's like again, summer 2021. Yeah. Even the good stuff is flawed. So yeah, I think I'm gonna go with Moonlit Fantasy, Uramichi, Aquatope. I think I'm gonna go with, this is tough. Do I like the likability of Remain more than the dark comedy of the Dungeon of Black Company?
Oh, that's a tough choice.
Because they're both entirely different shows and you have to go at them at different perspectives. I think I like the Dungeon of Black Company more overall because at least they're diving into the commentary where Remain isn't doing enough with the memory loss aspect.
I think that's fair.
Fair, yeah.
But still, I could flip-flop between those two. Maybe I'll just tie them for number 4. And yeah, I think I have to go with the Duke of Death and His Maid. I just find it cute outside of the harassment angle, obviously. I just like their dynamics, and maybe it's just like I'm thirsty for a romance anime, like a good one, because I've been kind of spoiled with Horimiya, and I finished up Nagatoro-kun, and I want that next one. And I just like the Duke of Death and His Maid. I just think there's a solid amount of appeal to it, but that's just me. All right. I think that's it.
But for now, Teresa, where can everyone find you online?
You can find me on all social channels at Teresa Electro.
And Haley?
You cannot find me anywhere. I am invisible and I am Legion. I am the Alpha and the Omega. I am everything and I am nothing. Just yell at me underneath whenever this gets posted in the Renegade Pop Culture group, and I might show up and be like, yo, hey, let's yell together.
Yeah.
Cameron?
You can find me at Twitter at Cam's Eye View. I have my own website called camseyeview.biz, where I review animated films and shows called The Other Side of Animation. And I have a Patreon at patreon.com/camseyeview. If you like my work, you can support me there.
And you guys can find me on Twitter at CaptainK42. You can check out all my quick thoughts on letterboxd.com/CoachK42. And you can find me in all the various Facebook groups just at my name. You can check out Renegade Pop Culture on Facebook and Twitter at Ren Pop Culture. Find us on Podchaser. Listen to all of our podcasts on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you listen. And last but not least, everything can be found at renegadepopculture.com. Mean escape, so do we. That'll do it for this episode of Renegade Animation. Thank you guys for joining, and we will catch you guys later. Peace out.